Welcome and good evening. Welcome to the MSAD 51 Board of Directors meeting for Thursday, March 6th. It's actually the first time we've had this meeting for a bit. We had quite a few Thursday snowstorms in February, so it's wonderful to see everyone tonight. Just to call the order. We have the full board here this evening. Wonderful seeing everyone. And we also have some administrators present, which leads us to our highlighting the literacy teachers and literacy specialists at MIW. So we're going to welcome Mallory up to come talk about the program. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mallory Orzechowski. I'm the assistant principal at Mabel I. Wilson School. In my role, I have the distinct pleasure, with the mentorship and oversight of Corey and Marie, of leading the literacy work at Mabel Wilson. Now, in an ordinary year, this is vital work that requires skill, care, and attention to move forward. In a year such as this year, it's a particularly heavy lift. This year, we are in the midst of piloting 2 new literacy programs. These are year-long pilots that require intense planning, regular meetings, classroom observations, and the utilization of a comprehensive curriculum evaluation tool. That is to name only a few of the commitments. Tonight, I would like to recognize our 17 pilot team members, consisting of 15 classroom teachers and our 2 literacy specialists, Kelsey Frost, Tatum Ledoux, Allison Flewitt, Sarah Gray, Jonna King, Teresa Foley, Tina Singer, Phyllis Jones, Abby Weeks, Katie Benner, Jessica Swindlehurst, Lauren Entwistle, Valerie Dominski, Ashley LeConte, Amelia Coffey, Rebecca Mrazek, and Jill Hughes. There are many important reasons to pilot new curriculum, but there is one that rises above them all: to learn. These teachers and specialists chose to embark on a journey to engage in a deep and meaningful learning process, a process that not only provides valuable information to help inform our next steps, but also one that deepens their own teaching practices. Many say that they are lifelong learners, but these staff members embody that concept, and for that we are thankful. And for that, they deserve every bit of our recognition. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know we've had some additional guests. We do have sign-in sheets for public comment. If people are here to make public comment tonight, I think there's some circulating. If people do want to sign up, you're welcome to. And if anyone new who's come in is interested, we have one more item, and then I will be collecting the public comment sheets if people are interested in speaking, and then using those to call people up. Just make sure everyone has a chance if they're interested. Great. All right, so we're going to move to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 16th, 2025 meeting?
I'll move.
Thank you, Kim. Can I have a second?
Seconded.
Oh, thank you, Jesse. Any questions or comments about the January 16th meeting? I know it does seem like it was a while ago.
A lifetime ago.
Lots happened. Okay, all in favor? Great.
I'm abstaining.
Abstaining. Annika's abstaining. She wasn't here.
Thank you.
Great. So we're going to move into public comment. Sign up has been made available for those wishing to speak. I have one sheet up here with 2 names. Is there any other sheets with names on them? Okay. So before I begin public comment tonight, I would like to acknowledge that there has been a lot of attention about our district at both the state and national level, specifically as it relates to various Title IX investigations around student athletic participation. First, I'm going to echo the statement from our superintendent from February 21st and reiterate our unwavering support for all of our students. This sport is not based upon our limited on upon or limited to any viewpoint, opinion, or identity. This support is unconditional for all students as value members of our school community. Next, MSAD 51 will continue to abide by the Maine Human Rights Act, which is state law. The state states that it is unlawful to deny a person equal opportunity in athletic programs or deny a person that benefits of any academic, extracurricular, research, or occupational training or other program or activity on the basis of sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, physical or mental disability, ancestry, national origin, race, color, or religion. We, along with our legal team, have been working to keep up with a very fluid situation and one that seems to change every day. We are working to stay in consistent communication with Maine DOE and our legal counsel, and until directed, we do not expect to change a policy or practice. This has been a whirlwind, and we will continue to focus first on controlling what we can control and work to make sure each school day is normal, safe, welcoming, and conducive to learning as possible. I wish I had more specifics, but as I said, things are developing and changing rapidly. I would also like to take a moment to personally thank our teachers, staff, administrators for dealing with an extraordinarily stressful situation with grace and professionalism. To our students, some of you are on the board and here today, you continue to impress me with your poise and maturity. Thank you. We will continue to put you first. I also recognize and regret the stress and attention this places specifically on our LGBTQ students. No student, no matter how they identify, should have to deal with this unwarranted and unwanted attention. One final word to our neighbors in Cumberland and North Yarmouth. We are a community. We are neighbors, friends, and families that each bring unique experiences and perspectives. Let's continue to build a community rooted in respect, compassion, and kindness that celebrates our differences and finds strengths in our shared values. I ask everyone to show compassion for those who may be going through something different than you are, show understanding and empathy for everyone's journey. Our children are watching us and looking for us as examples on how to model civil discourse. Let's make sure we work together to set that example. So the board welcomes and recognizes the value of public comment, and to ensure public comment is fair and orderly, we'll follow procedures as outlined in board policy BEDH, and we ask that all members of the public do so as well. We follow this policy to keep the meeting civil, respectful, and productive. We also hope that this allows for all community members who would like to speak to be heard. We were using the sign up tonight per policy. Residents and staff members have been given priority, and we have 30 minutes of public comment if needed. We ask that speakers use the designated podium when making their comments, and comments by individuals are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and a clock will be visible on the screen, and after 3 minutes the timer will go off and comments should be wrapped up. Please state your name and town of residence before beginning your remarks. As a reminder, public comment is not a time for discussion, Q&A, or debate between the board and speakers. Rather, it is a chance for members of the public to express their opinions on school and educational matters. The board will not comment on remarks made by speakers during public comment. Please please know that this does not mean we're not listening. Lastly, please keep comments respectful and civil. This includes members of the audience, and we ask that comments are addressed to myself, the chair. Please do not direct comments at or about individuals in our schools and communities. And I want to note that I will stop any comment that's contrary. So, last call. I have 2 sign-ups. I'll start with Mike Perfetti.
That makes me nervous. Does it start when I talk, or no? I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. Hi there. My name is Mike Perfetti. I wanted to go first because in case people wanted to sort of speak negatively about what's been happening, I want to set the tone. I do appreciate that a lot of people, including people in my own family, are saying, oh, we're following the law. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate following the law. But just be mindful that there may come a day when the law is immoral. So I just want you to think about that, because it could change. All right, the idea that there are strictly 2 genders is in the middle of being debunked by science and good theology. The prayer of St. Francis has a line in it. It is better to understand than to be understood. I direct you to the podcast Embedded. You can get it on NPR or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's called tested. Scientific discoveries in the last 50 years have expanded our notion beyond simple XX or XY chromosomes determining sex. These are simply not the only indicators of gender, sex, or identity. Our scientific understanding of it now includes so much more evidence if we are open to learning. Also, native cultures, long before we populated this land, had a way to integrate people fully into the community. They are two-spirit people. If one doesn't want to accept these facts and ways of moving in this world, then perhaps statistics will help. In the last 10 years, 50 transgender students in Maine have asked to participate in a sport. 50 in 10 years. I don't know the percentage of total athletes during that time, but I expect that expressed as a percentage of the total, it's infinitesimal. Also, the NC2A shamefully bended knee to our madman in charge. Of the 500,000 athletes that are collegiate NC2A athletes, there are 10 or fewer. Transgender people make up 2% or less of our total population. Transgender athletes are in no way displacing female athletes, statistically speaking. I'm the father of 2 daughters, and so I speak personally as well. One person's experience is not a threat to my existence. If the state legislature wants to work on problems that will help our children, think about this. There are about 1,500 high school students in Maine, probably, identifying as transgender or experiencing gender dysphoria. Listen to this one. Yet more than 3,000 students live in poverty in Maine. So there's plenty of work to do. Thanks.
Andrea Berry.
Hello, my name is Andrea Berry. I live in North Yarmouth, and I'm the chair of the North Yarmouth Select Board. The Select Board would like to appreciate the school board, all of the amazing work you've done, and the way that you have welcomed and supported all students. I've been invited to read a statement that we made on Tuesday night. This is a statement in support of the LGBTQIA community from the North Yarmouth Select Board. In this moment, when the national spotlight is on our community, the Select Board of the Town of North Yarmouth wants to be abundantly clear that we stand in unwavering support of our LGBTQIA+ community members. We affirm that all residents deserve to feel safe, valued, and included in our town, and will do all we can to defend those rights. North Yarmouth is committed to fostering a welcoming environment where diversity is celebrated and all individuals can live without fear of discrimination, targeting, or harm. The Maine Human Rights Act prohibits discrimination based on race, color, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, age, physical or mental disability, genetic predisposition, religion, ancestry, or national origin. And in North Yarmouth, we follow the laws of our great state. We recognize the importance of ensuring that our policies, programs, and public spaces reflect these values, and we remain dedicated to creating a community that uplifts and protects every one of its members. To our LGBTQIA+ neighbors, you are a vital part of the fabric of our town, and we stand with you. Together, we will continue to build a more equitable and inclusive North Yarmouth where love and respect prevail over hate and prejudice. And to all in our community, we will use our voice to uphold what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote in his letter from a Birmingham jail. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Your municipal government is here for all of you. We amplify your voice, we defend your rights, we swore to uphold the rule of law, because our state motto is Dare to Go. With the North Star firmly fixed in our sights, we continue to stand strong, because we're your neighbors, and that's what neighbors do. We are very proud to stand in support of this community, everyone in this community. And we want to make sure that all of you know that you are welcomed in North Yarmouth, and I know that that sentiment is echoed in our neighbors in Cumberland. So thank you.
So thank you. I'd like to close public comment. And I know that everyone is more than welcome to stay as long as they'd like. We do have our budget presentation tonight, but first is the cybersecurity plan. Come on. Cybersecurity, anyone? Don't take it personally. Okay.
None taken.
So we have Dirk Van Kuren and Donna Green.
Yes, thank you. I'm the tech director, Dirk Van Kuren, and Donna Green is my assistant director who's back in the corner, and Ryan Wallace also is on our tech group. I wanted to thank them for a lot of the work that went into this cybersecurity plan, including Nicole Barnes and Pete Rohde. So the 5 of us worked diligently in putting this together. It's 22 pages long, and I'm going to read every word. No. So basically, this is going to be very high level because this plan isn't a public document. It's being given to the safety committee for the use if there is a cyber incident. So there's things that we don't want everybody to know because then they might know where our holes are. So basically, the whole purpose of this is to protect our students and staff. We do quite a bit already, and we're doing a lot more as we move forward. And why does it matter? We're vulnerable, okay? We have a lot of technology in our schools. We're one-to-one, basically, with all staff and students, and we have a network of almost, we're up to 360-some actual points that make up our network. So we have to make sure that those points are safe and secure for our network. There are a lot of cyber attacks happening, and we also know that we have a very strong network and a firewall to protect us. We also are very diligent about our student privacy within all the software that we use. We use a coalition that we actually have written student privacy agreements with all of our software companies that says they'll protect our students' data and our staff data. So that's really important. Donna does the lion's share of that with working with all our tech teams to make sure that we do the due diligence if we're looking at any new software. And lastly, the financial data, like one of the, I say the main focus of the cybersecurity plan is where's the money? Where are people trying to get to, and where our vendors, the supply chains, our payroll, HR, things like that. So we developed a plan. We used the NISTA framework, and also second point there, MSAD is where we get our cyber insurance from. We use templates that they offer to us working with our insurance company. And NISTA is the National Institute for Standards and Technology. We also got feedback from all our stakeholders, including the district committee, safety committee, the principals, and district leadership team. All got eyes on what we were doing, and so that we made sure that if an incident happens, they're aware of what has to happen. We've also, the top line there talks about the different things that we've done in the tech department. We've been to multiple webinars. We've gone to Actum, which is our state technology group, had a conference in Portland last year, all on cybersecurity. We've done a state table exercise, mirroring something that might happen at the state level and how we would participate in that. So the NISA framework basically starts with identifying that there has been a threat, then it goes to protection, detect, respond, and recover. So that's the framework, and to see it put out like that, once we identify that there has been a threat, or we are going to put into action what we call our incident response plan, which talks about the level of what the threat is. So if it's just, okay, something very low level, it might just stay within the tech department. And then if it rises to a higher level, there's more people that get triggered at different levels within the organization, but also outside the organization, law authorities, and things like that. So the protect, the safeguards, what we do to reduce those risks. We just signed on with a third-party vendor that's going to install more endpoint detections, and they also have a 24/7, 365-day team that has access to our network and can shut particular things off if something were to go awry, and make sure that it gets isolated off the network. And that's part of the detect. And then the respond, it's working with this group that were hired, and then internally, who's affected and what do we have to do to bring the system back up so we can get back to the teaching and learning. And recover, that's basically, are we back in operation? And then there's a part that where we have to do reflection and what did we learn from it? Because this is not going away. We've already had one incident. You're probably all aware of the Power School incident. So that's a really good example of where that's all our student data. And that's, somebody had access and downloaded all of that, and it's still ongoing because Power School has some obligations to us because we're a district that uses Power School, but also to the state. And they've also, I think, everybody got notifications to sign up for free credit monitoring. So that was that. Let's see. The plan, as I said, it is 22 pages long. It's very detailed of the things that we have to make sure that we cover. And it provides, protective defense and a clear response strategy in event of an attack. And the incident response plan is really our map on what we have to do depending on what that threat is. Malware, phishing attack, ransomware. So that pretty much, next steps is present it to the school board. We're then going to take it to the safety committee to have it put into the overall safety plan. And then we will conduct regular reviews about this because it is a fluid plan. Things change rapidly. I mean, probably within a month, things will be different on what things we probably have to be looking at. So on that, any questions? Yes.
So the vendor that is already in place that
we're in the process of putting them into place. Yeah.
Yes. Do you know, will we get information from that vendor about sort of attempted attacks, or so just to be aware of our people attempting to get into our system? Are they going to provide? If
there is an incident, would we be notified?
Yeah. So not a incident that's successful, but just even attempts.
Oh yeah. We'll get, as a tech director, a tech department will get notified. They also, because they're working 24/7, they have the power to work for us to basically take a switch offline, or a copier, or an HVAC. So these are all where everybody who has access onto our internet could be a weak spot.
Yeah, it'd be great over time just to brief us on are they going up, down? Are we not seeing many at all? Hopefully we aren't, but just to know if there are patterns or
we get DDoS. That's an attack where it just floods our network and basically brings it to a halt. It's not getting into any systems. It's just affecting teaching and learning. So, and one question I asked this company when I was considering them, I said, okay, out of all your customers, how many have you had to pay out ransomware? And they said 0. So, and they live in the K-12 space. That's their model for their company. There's a lot of cybersecurity companies out there that do K-12, but they also do all sorts of others.
Great.
So, other question?
I had a question. So with the Power School, and this may be something that's already been addressed, but with the Power School attack, I recognize that the students and the staff were protected. What about the guardians and the parents' information that is there within the student files?
We don't know yet all of the information that was in the file that they downloaded from us. So that's still part of what Power School is getting to us. There was only one staff member that had a social security number, and the current staff, and so it's still yet to be known everything. But there was a lot of encrypted parts of that file that they couldn't open and get to. So
Okay.
we feel pretty confident that, you know, where we sit right now, that, you know, it's not going to happen again, because they are in the crosshairs of all public schools that use Power School.
Gotcha.
So,
Thanks, Dirk. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean, it does give me a little more confidence that they're not just this one-off company that we're dealing with, like they have a big reach. Like,
Yeah.
Do most school districts use Power School?
I would say, I'm going to guess half.
Half of
It's
them,
either first, I forget what the other company is. We used to use it, and we went to Power School. When the state took away paying for Power School, we went to, Donna, you remember the name of the other?
Infinite Campus.
Infinite Campus,
Okay.
that's it, yeah.
And have we helped enforce?
Oh, Donna wants
go
to
ahead.
speak to it.
Can I quickly speak to the Power School?
Yes, thank you.
Power School is in the process right now of, they hired a Experian, and they are in the process of directly contacting all of the people who, whose data was released. So over time, we expect all of those people to get contacted. So you said, like, you know, parents, we didn't lose like financial information. For the most part, you know, you're talking about directory information, addresses, phone numbers, names, but there is some PII like children's birth dates, but obviously there's not going to be parent birth dates. But right now, Power School has hired a company, and people are being notified. We've had some staff be notified already about what they can do, and we're expecting parents to be getting be getting communications fairly soon. But Power School has not been good about keeping us up, but, you know, telling us what they're doing, to be honest.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that additional information.
And about, I know that there was a notification about changing of passwords, and there may have been some incentives to students to change theirs, but did Power School, did they not force everyone to change their password?
They did not. We forced, this had nothing to do with the parent portal.
Okay.
How the bad actor got into the system was through one of their tech people, and no, they did not have two-step verification for their technology people, and their technology people had complete access to our data. We didn't know that. We use a company called TEC that signs student data privacy agreement. We have that we use to get student data privacy agreements. They broke that agreement, and TEC is working with their lawyers because they signed an agreement saying that they were protecting our data, and they didn't.
Okay. And I know another, obviously, tool that everyone uses is Google and Google Classroom. And do we have the two-factor for that
two-factor verification for all of our staff accounts, and it's forced, so they don't have a choice. We are working on two-factor for student accounts. It's a little more complicated because they don't have a phone, but there are companies that are stepping into that arena, and so we're definitely keeping an eye on that.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Yeah. In a past life, I managed cybersecurity for a couple of startups. They trusted me probably improperly to do that. One of the things that I always came across was the number one thing was phishing attempts, and the phishing attempts got very, very, very creative. And I just actually had one of my previous organizations who was attempted hack through like posting a job that it didn't go directly to them. It wasn't like an actual posted job. The information was posted to some kind of scammer. So I'm curious, what is currently like our number one cybersecurity threat? Is it phishing? Is it other kind of form of hacking? And like just very broadly, what do we do about it right now before this solution is in place?
Yeah, it's definitely phishing,
Yeah.
And we do cybersecurity online safety training with our staff. And our students get some through Common Sense Media, through their digital citizenship training, learning, but we do train our staff on how to identify, because phishing is hard.
We also forced password changing for all students, so they all had to do that. We got, 35 that didn't try it, so we had to actually force it on them, so that was a little problematic.
Yeah, grades 6 and up.
6 and up.
Would we be able to send like a fake attempted phishing email just to see who responds to it, who doesn't, so we have a kind of a sense of who's actually following those policies?
We believe the state is doing that. Some of the districts have gotten their results of what happened, and we have not heard about our results.
Can we just do that internally?
Well, I'm going to talk to this other third party that's coming on board, because that's one of the things that they could do for us. They also will do a penetration test to see, if we have any weak areas, and we also have things that are provided to us through the insurance company.
Okay. Well, thanks for making this a focus. I think it's going to ease a lot of minds, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, especially after the Power School incident. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh,
One question, and you don't have to answer it here if it's not secure to answer it, but a prior school system I worked for, the largest school system in Maine, they, for decades, required us to use our social security number prominently. You don't do that. I don't know if you did do that, but if the answer is no,
we don't.
Great. So all the...
So I laughed. The Social Security, I have a bicycle that was bought for me when I was young in Wayland, Massachusetts, and the way that they had you come down and etch on the bike my dad's Social Security number in case it ever got stolen. I still have that bike just to remind me that that's out there. So.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great.
Thank you.
So our next presentation is the first presentation of our fiscal year 26 budget. If you can get it up. There we go. Yeah, I know. Don't leave yet.
Yeah, and I want to thank Dirk and Donna for that presentation. That's part of your board-approved strategic priorities for the year. So that has been a focus of the districts, along with a few other ones. But if you recall back in August or September when you approved those, that has been an area that our safety committee has been focused on with our tech department, making sure that that plan got completed this year. So it's actually earlier than I thought it would be. It's great. So tonight I am presenting the FY26 budget for your consideration. This is the first step in many steps that will be taking place over the next, actually 3 months until there's a budget referendum in mid-June. So I'll be going through the current budget, FY25, just quick preview on that, making sure we know where we're at with that budget. Getting into strategic priorities, expenditures, and then revenue and tax. Just starting with the value of your investment. MSAD 51 has long been recognized for its academic, athletic, and arts accomplishments. We offer rigorous educational experiences. Our outcomes are evident by our exemplary student performance. Our district is always at the very top of any list of high-performing school systems in the state of Maine. Your investment is not made in vain. You have much to be proud of. Celebrate your student success, our student success, as if they were your own. And they might actually be your own. Looking down the table here. So here's some key points, and I'll be going through these through the budget presentation. This is responsive to continuing enrollment increases in our district. Our enrollment increases are now moving up. They've been moving up as well for years. GMS 6-8, you'll see some additional expenditures there. More funding directly to the classroom. Expenditures balanced with thoughtful reductions. One campus project debt is not in this budget. We're not carrying any debt at this point. We have taken on a bond anticipation note, but there is no effect to the FY26 budget from the one campus project. Just want to make sure people know that. The GMS debt service is retiring this year, so we can all celebrate. We're going to have a retirement party, 20 years. So ticker tack, and that's a huge drop in debt service. State subsidy increase of a little over $1.2 million will help with taxes. And then we have this really fun idea hanging out there called the unknown federal funding issue that we're figuring out how to deal with, and we need a backup plan, obviously, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. So just, I'm not going to go through all this, but you know, these are our schools at this point. We're in the process of about to start ground on a brand new facility. As all of you know, we have 2 schools that are under one roof, essentially, in our district right now. 2,234 students in our district right now, 435 regular staff members. We have a little over 2,500 parents and guardians, because people always ask me, well, that's really similar to the number of students you have, because many families have multiple kids. That's why that number is there. 4 schools, 3 buildings, 2 towns, 1 campus, and one and only, of course, Ranger Nation. This is our current budget, just over $50 million. It's our gross budget for the current year. We're currently bringing in $15.8 million in revenue, most of it is state subsidy, and a current tax rate in Cumberland is 3.98% for this year, and 3.3% for town of North Yarmouth. That's the current tax rate for the FY25 budget. So one thing that I don't usually report on during this presentation, it's usually later in the spring, is the federal grants. You'll see that TBA is for next year. That's because we don't have any information. We usually get information later in the spring. That's why I don't present this early, but I wanted to give you information about what we're currently getting in federal funds. We get money through Title I and Title II, about $100,000 each year. So we're at $105,000 this year. We have $502,000 that we receive in special education for staff, professional development and supplies. That's in addition to the general fund. We have just over $10,000 for pre-K salaries that we get from the federal government. We also get $100,000 in value from the USDA, and this is food service credit. It's not actually paying. There's no money exchange, but we get food on this credit. That we have $100,000 for. So we get USDA food. That's $100,000 value, and then we get direct subsidy from the federal government of $200,000. So all told, our federal dollars this year are just over $918,000. That's about what we got in 2023-24. People have asked that question many times over the last couple of weeks, so I thought I'd just provide those numbers for you. So getting into the strategic priorities, and I want to thank the Finance Committee for really helping with this area of the budget as we go through it. Just a reminder that much of the budgeting revolves around these 4 big buckets of the strategic plan that were developed back in 2018. Skills for the 21st century, early childhood education, every student college and career ready, and wellness. As we begin to build a budget for a learning organization, we're taking into account that most of the budget is fixed for a school district. That's existing salaries and benefits, debt service, utilities, operations, inflation. All of that factors into the vast majority of the budget. And that accounts for more than 80%, really probably talking 90% when you're talking about salaries and utilities and all of that, if not more. Strategic priorities are the things I'm about to outline in just a few minutes, but those are a much smaller portion of things that we need to do to maintain our district as being a high-performing school district. And then there's changing conditions, and that's often enrollment for us. It's been enrollment for about 10 years. But it's also things like federal funds and just kind of watching those dollars and any other conditions that come up that we may not be aware of or we need some more answers on. So getting into the proposals this is again a draft budget. It goes to the board for consideration. And in the new proposals, there's 4 categories this year that we decided to place these things in. The first one is enrollment. So as we continue responding to enrollment, these are priority needs for next year. Furniture requests, as we continue growing, our furniture is breaking or it needs to be replaced, or we need new furniture to keep up with the enrollment. So you probably have seen this line every year for the last few years. It just seems to increase, and most of the furniture requests this year are at the middle school. Next year, we're beginning 3 transition committees. They'll be pre-K to 1, 2-4, and 5-8. Those are the 3 new configurations. High school is staying the same. So beginning in September, the principals will be heading up a transition committee with that new grade span in mind. And there'll be time set aside for that outside of the school day, outside of the work day. So those are stipends for paying staff members to participate on those transition committees, which will be going on all year. The next one for enrollment is access points, projectors, whiteboards for the new 2-room unit that we need to put in at GMS. That is because the enrollment is just continuing to grow there. We currently have 6 rooms, so we're adding 2 more to have 8. And this is part of a lease purchase for this equipment, which will actually outlast the modular classroom that we're putting there. So we'll use that in another space when it's finished, because it's a 3-year lease. We've also signed, or tonight the board will be asked to approve a 2-year lease, which is a continuation of the modulars at the middle school. We have 6 rooms and we're adding 2, so this will include the 2 additional, plus redo that lease at the middle school and replace some of the aging rooms. And I want to thank Scott for cutting a good deal with Scavi. They've been good to work with us, and they consider us to be a good customer, so they've really worked hard with us. There's also 2 positions in this budget at GMS 6-8, and that is purely enrollment. GMS 6-8's enrollment was steady at about 475, 480 students for probably eight years. It didn't change more than 5 students every year. And now we're at 530, I believe it's 530 students right now, if I remember correctly. I can go back and, we'll go back and look. 515. And next year it is expected to go up another 50 or so, 50 or 60. So part of that also, when looking at staffing, there's a lot of things that we can do internally, do some reconfiguration, move things around. But those 2 teachers are necessary to keep up with enrollment, as well as a quarter-time Spanish teacher, which would be, we do have a couple part-time people in the district, and the idea is to add that time to somebody who already is working for us. So the total for enrollment that we're proposing for additions are $479,127. The next area for priorities for the FY26 budget, safety and security. This is an area that we have worked steadily and very diligently with the Safety and Security Committee of our district. One item that was on the budget list last year but got removed during the process was what we call Crisis Alert. Crisis Alert is a program that is being used more and more across the nation. It is a program that our Safety and Security Committee, I would say, unanimously backs at this point. We've had multiple presentations from the company that supports us called Strategics, and the Safety and Security Committee really wanted to advance this item this year. This is a really secure system for helping our schools, and I think it will add a huge boost to our safety measures in our district. The next one might be an item that I hope we can remove from the budget, $5,400 for behavioral threat assessment. The state of Maine has a contract with a company that's been providing us with training. We have, I believe it's 3 teams right now that are trained in our district around behavioral threat assessment, being able to respond to behavioral threats within students, visitors, et cetera. The state might sign a new contract, and if that's the case, we'll be able to remove that item. The next one is a bus. These are budget to actuals, the next 2 items, cameras on buses and a bus sonar so that parents can actually see on their phone. We'll be releasing this soon, be able to follow a bus and know where a bus is on their child's route. It's confidential, and they would have sign-in privileges for just their child's bus, but being able to track their bus and know where it is, if it's going to be late or whatnot. And then the cameras we've already installed on the buses. We have external and internal cameras. They were installed at the beginning of the school year. And so those were expenses that we had not counted on, were not budgeted. However, we now need to carry those expenses in our budget. So it's budget to actual. The next one, Dirk and Donna just alluded to it, a network contract. Some of that is that we have not had a contract for our network. We've had more of a fee for service, and that company that we've been using is dropping that and is requiring a network contract. And then we're in the process of also securing a cybersecurity contract with a company, as Dirk mentioned. So that's just an additional amount that we've already got. Some money in the budget already. This would be providing both of those things. And then finally, Cal Cares. I consider this safety and security because this is a club of actually initiated by high school students, very active. It's probably the most active chapter in New England called Cal Cares. We don't currently pay the staff member who is running or leading this club with the students. And because it has been such an active club for 2 years, it's time for us to put that stipend in the budget and support this incredible club. So $99,213 for safety and security. Next area is instructional support and allied arts. We currently have a 3-day-a-week board-certified behavior analyst, BCBA. That's a person who has really some of the most knowledge around student behaviors and how to develop plans to work with students. And we would like to bring that person on. The person who's in that role is interested in working full-time for us. We split between 2 districts. So this item would bring that person into our district 5 days a week. So it would be 100% time, and that's the difference in salary. We have $400,000 earmarked in this budget for out-of-district placements for students on IEPs. These are actual costs that we believe in the next year could be a very real potential. And so we have to be responsible and go ahead and budget for those expenses. If we, these are actual students that are on a continuum, and there's a good potential that they will be placed out of our district. And so we therefore have to budget the money in order to support that, and that's required by federal law. ESOL, so students whose language is not English, their first language is not English, they have another language and they're learning English. We have a teacher in our district. That teacher's Time is, there's not enough of her to go around. She also teaches ASL classes at the high school as part of her job. And years ago, we had an ed tech that was supporting this teacher, and we were able to make a reduction for a while, and we're seeing that those needs have really grown. And so we're putting this in as a need for our district next year as an ed tech 3 that supports that teacher. $9,500 for 7th grade overnight. So the middle school 6-8 is just about finished coming up with a new agreement with a new 7th grade overnight trip. There was a place this year that the 7th graders went to. It wasn't as well received as we would have liked by many people. And so the middle school will be pivoting, and they found a great spot. I won't give details yet because that's Dr. Selby's place to do so, but we're holding this place for staff stipends. We were not paying our staff nearly enough to spend 2 nights overnight away from their families. And so this will pay for not only teachers to do that, 20 teachers, but also pay for several ed techs their hourly rate to work one-on-one with students that they need that are in 7th grade and are going on the trip. So this supports all of our 7th graders doing an overnight experience. And for years and years, I don't think we were paying, quite frankly, our teachers enough money to do this experience. And so this increases from $100 to, I believe it's $350 per teacher, plus the hourly rate for ed techs. And then finally, leadership team stipends. This is an item that we don't currently have in our budget to support our high school department heads. And so it's a new item that we are including in this budget. So we're asking for, at this point, or requesting $523,654 in instructional support and allied arts. Last category for priorities is operations. So if Dirk was here, he'd be very excited. He knows this already. But as part of our technology infrastructure, there's a lot of items that we have put on hold for many years. And one of them is core switches. Core switches are those switches that basically everything comes in and goes through these switches to everything else. And when those switches are not working in our district and they're aging, they've aged quite a bit, our network does not work as well as we'd like it to. And so we've been putting this off for a little bit, and we can't put it off anymore. This is too much of a risk. We know we're going to have to replace them in the middle of the year if we do that. So it's $24,000 as part of a lease purchase. Lease purchasing helps us to defray cost over multiple years instead of trying to absorb the full cost. And Scott does a great job managing those lease purchases for us so that we can do that. $66,000, we cannot lease purchase network hardware. That's not allowed. So these are licenses, network hardware licenses that we never did during the COVID network upgrade. We got essentially a free upgrade with fiber in our district brought into our network during COVID from federal funds. The one thing we didn't have money for at that time when they did all of that, and we had the option of paying for it ourselves, and we didn't do it because we were during COVID times and budgets were tight, not that they're not tight now, but we never went ahead and prepaid those licenses for more than, I think it was 4 years, Scott? 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, we knew they were going to expire after a period of time.
So they're now expiring, and we're going to have to go ahead and renew those licenses for our hardware. So we could have prepaid them. We didn't have the money. We knew it was going to catch up with us. We knew we were going to have to pay for this. So here it is. One item that we were able to, we usually try to replace 2 school buses each year. We haven't been doing that very well. This year, we're still only asking for 1 bus. The original request was 2. We're able to fund that without adding anything to the budget because we have a lease purchase on a bus that is retiring. So as it retires, we're going to take on a new one, and it will not add anything to the budget. That's why you see a 0. We have not replaced any of our vans since we started purchasing vans about 5 years ago. And so we have a van. We're trying to get into a replacement cycle now. We have a van that's rusting out on the bottom, and it really is not worth trying to fix anymore. So we're looking to replace that. That's a lease purchase as well. Digital records retention. We have student graduation files with a company right now that has discontinued or is discontinuing access to those files, and they have rerouted. I think they're going out of business. They've rerouted us to another company that they're affiliated with, and we have to now pay the fee to do that and to have all those files moved into this new company. So that will cost $5,700. If we don't do it, we do not have access to all of our archived graduation files over the years. Our liability insurance, this was one that we got news of just last week. Sometimes we get different fees that come in, different companies give us information, and unfortunately our liability insurance is going up like everything else. 15% hike for next year, $40,000 increase. And then finally, grade 2 Chromebooks. We lease purchase these every year. We have them on rotating lease purchases. So this is a lease purchase amount to provide all grade 2 students Chromebooks. We do that. They take them with them all the way through elementary school until they get to middle school. And then they get the MLTI machines from the state, but we pay for the second grade ones each year. We don't have a retiring lease purchase on this year, so we're going to have to bear the cost going into next year. So the total operations requests are $195,700. We do have reductions. We have $315,250 in staff reductions. We have 3 teaching positions or specialist positions that we are recommending for reduction. I'm not foreseeing that there will be any actual people cut with these positions at this point. At this point, we believe it will just be reductions that we can make to our budget, but we've done some reorganization in areas, and we'll be making sure that that reorganization aligns with this number of 3 reductions for teachers and specialists. The equity consultant, we've had an equity consultant for the last 5 or 6 years in our district, and there's 2 reasons we're proposing this. One is that person that we've been using, who's great, now has a full-time job at a college and is not really available to us as much, and we are going to continue using him on a fee for service. So we left a little bit of money in that account. I think $4,000 is left, but this is the amount that we really don't need to be spending going into next year with that consultant. Professional learning grants. The teacher's new contract includes a self-directed professional development day that was negotiated into their contract through negotiations. We still have money for professional learning grants, which teachers can apply for. Every year there's a committee that reviews them. But we are, because of this new self-directed day, we've decided that we can reduce that, reduce our assumptions around funding the full $25,000. One calendar, it was a great idea a year ago when we proposed it, and I want to give lots of kudos to the town of Cumberland for trying to work with us on it, make it work, but at the end of the day, the lineup of software and what our needs are and what the town's needs are didn't work out quite the way we were hoping, but we want to give a lot of thanks to Pete Bingham Jr. for his efforts, heroic efforts to help make this work. Unfortunately, I think just the way that we're designed, it's very different. We have a new strategy that does not cost any money that we've developed internally, so we'll be able to replace this expense, so it's a reduction for the budget. Curriculum software, iReady Toolbox, this is something that we'd like to do. We wanted to do it through supporting RTI, but we talked to the administrators, they said this was something that they didn't feel was absolutely necessary to support MTSS and RTI in our district and felt it could be reduced. As I mentioned earlier, we have debt service retiring at the middle school. This is the 20-year bond. No longer have to pay on it. It's a reduction of $807,951, so quite a big quite a big drop in this budget. We also have different reductions. We asked each administrator, each principal at the schools to come up with reductions, and they were able to look at software, book supplies, pathways materials at the high school, that the current pathways coordinator who's new is not using those materials like the former one was. Advisory programming was something that is a reduction, and they're not using that money or don't foresee using that money next year. So the total of reductions that we're recommending are $1,205,701 to the current budget. I'm not going to go through these proposals, not advanced, but I will just tell you that we'll show you that there was almost $1.2 million in proposals that were asked for, requested by administrators, and are not advancing in this budget. Two that I'd like to point out. One is at Mabel I. Wilson School. We had put a teacher in for pre-K to 3. Corey Muncie and I have been monitoring kindergarten registrations, and we've also been looking at class sizes at MIW, and we feel at this point pretty confident that we can remove this position. Now, during the course of the budget process, if there is a change in the registrations, and registrations go on through summer, we usually get the bulk of them by the end of March. If we see a pretty drastic change in this, I may be coming back to you before the process is over. But at this point, both Corey and I felt we were comfortable taking this out of the initial request. The other item I just want to highlight is a digital visitor management system. This was a safety system that actually you put license into a system, and staff at the Wilson School don't have to keep asking people if they're not sure who they are for their license. They've already got everything. It sets it up in a digital system. It's a lot more efficient. And the reason we were able to pull this out is that the Centegix crisis alert system actually comes with that for every school. That's just a part of the program they offer. It's not an extra, it's just part of their base price. So we're able to pull that out. Unfortunately, all these other positions, and again, I won't go through them, did not advance. So just looking at the priorities themselves, not the whole budget, just the priorities. The new priorities that were advanced in this recommended 26 budget, $1,297,694. But there was a reduction as well to the budget, and many of those are priorities that we reduced, but did not feel like we needed to prioritize it for FY26, is $1,205,701. So the net effect, when you look at the new priorities that are in this budget and the reductions that we're able to look for, there's just a net effect of under $100,000 to the FY26 budget that's being recommended. So let's take a look at expenditures. These are the cost center descriptors. Obviously this will be posted online if people want to look through these. The state requires 11 cost centers, and that we have to account. It's called fund accounting. We have to account for all of our, every single cent that we spend must be in one of these 11 cost centers, and we get audited annually, and the state also tracks all of our expenses as well, but we have to be independently audited. So, and they have to follow this fund process that's in state law. So I will just say that there's 2 that we don't use. We don't use other. Some districts put all kinds of money in other. We put $0, we never have. The other one we don't use is career and tech ed. Doesn't mean that we don't have students that go to Paths or Westbrook for part of their day. It just means that the state now, even though they left this cost center in, the state now picks up the cost up front and does not bill districts. Years ago, we would individually get bills for that. So now we send students, but it comes off the top before it's ever allocated to local districts and vocational centers. So just a summary of the major budget drivers, just to give you a high-level look at this. This is, again, increases to the budget. So these are the increases that we're looking at. Total salary and benefits for all of our bargaining units, all of our employees in the district, all 435, plus we also have temporary salaries in coaching, substitutes, which is probably another 80 to 100 people. But we're looking at $3,251,749 for FY26. I'll talk about that in just a minute in more detail. Temporary space lease, again, going back to those priorities, if you remember earlier, it was $150,000. It was to put that 2-unit in and also replace the aging units at GMS. We have enrollment, the enrollment expenses that I also talked about earlier. That has to do with just the enrollment growth, $479,127. Out of district placement, special education, $400,000. Legal costs. We have continuously been incurring rising legal costs. Fees have gone up, but also legal situations have gone up over the last, I'd say, since COVID. We've been seeing that steadily rise. So we're anticipating we'll need another $50,000 in legal costs for next year. Again, these are increases. And then finally, safety. And again, these numbers probably look familiar because I talked about them earlier. 99,213. So those are the biggest drivers, the biggest 6 drivers in the FY26 budget, if we had to boil it right down. So here's your numbers. Again, I'm not going to go through these in particular, but you can see I removed the other in career and tech because we have zeros in those. So just focusing on the 9 cost centers that we do use in our district. And you can see that there are some fairly significant percentage changes from the FY25 to FY26 that we're proposing. And again, if you go back to the priority slides that I mentioned, you would be able to follow along and kind of track this to the percent changes. So in regular instruction, which is the largest cost center we have, that's where all of our teachers are that are not teachers of special education, regular education teachers, regular education ed techs. We have specialists in there, librarians, all kinds of folks are in the regular instruction line. So we have, again, driving that 9.81%. We have 2.25 teachers that we added, salary and benefits, in ESOL, ed tech, and furniture is making up that 9.81%. Special education, we're up 8.72%. Again, that was the out-of-district placements, salaries and benefits. You're always going to see that. That's in almost every cost center. As we negotiate with the bargaining units, their salary and benefits are placed into our budget, obviously. For other instruction, we have a lot of stipends. The new stipends that I mentioned already are located in this other instruction cost center. For student and staff support, a lot of that increase, 19.2%, is in technology. That's where technology lies, along with other areas. But all the technology pieces that I was talking about, you'll find there. Looking at system administration, that's the district office. A lot of that increase is due to the legal costs, our liability insurance going up, and then salary and benefits. School administration is primarily salary and benefit increases, and then some other incidental costs that administrators need to leave their schools. For transportation, again, salary and benefits. It's the cameras that I mentioned, replacing a van. That's all in transportation. Facilities and maintenance, salary and benefits. And the modular unit that is being added to GMS. And then finally, debt service, you'll see is the one cost center going down, 29%, and that's because of the retiring debt. So hopefully you see a corresponding piece between all of the priorities, reductions, and this page right here as your summary. So the total recommended budget that we are presenting tonight is $54,005,939, which is up $3,755,832 over the current year, or a 7.47% expenditure increase. So here's another way of looking at this. breaking down the cost centers by area, we are spending 73.67% is going directly to the classroom. That the state average is 68%, so we're spending more on the classroom than the state does, and we're spending more on the classroom than we did a year ago, or during the current year. We're proposing to spend more. We're at 71.5% right now, so we're up just over 2% more on direct classroom costs. So regular education is the biggest area, of course, as I mentioned. That's 44% of the budget. Special education's 19% or just under 19%. And then you can see everything else is a much smaller percentages. But I'm glad that we always like to move in that direction. We want more money going directly to instruction and to the classroom. Obviously, school districts have lots of other expenses that they have to pay for, but the more that we can get into the classroom, the better. And I'm glad we made that move in the positive direction. Okay, let's talk about revenue. What do we bring in, and what do we think taxes are going to be estimated at for next year? So here's our revenue. Our state subsidy came in, as I mentioned, about $1.2 million more, so just over $1.2 million more in state subsidy that we are expecting starting July 1st, so for FY26. So that's good news. The state of Maine has been trying to make good on its promise of funding 55% of the cost of education in Maine, and I can certainly say from our district standpoint, Maine has made good on that. We've been seeing about $1 million in increases. I think this is maybe the largest increase we've seen, but just around $1 million for the last 3 or 4 years coming to our district. And part of it is enrollment, but there's a lot of other factors involved in that. Sheboygan Island, when Sheboygan Island seceded from the town of Cumberland years ago and from SAD 51, they still had to pay the cost of facilities and other expenses that was part of an agreement. This is next year will be their very last year, FY26, having to pay SAD 51 for expenses. So we've been seeing a steady decline in revenue from Sheboygan Island. They're basically off the hook. I'm sure they're excited not to have to keep paying us. So next year will be the very last year, and it's much less than they have in the past. And then miscellaneous revenue is up quite a bit, almost $200,000 or so. And that's because of main care billing. We've been able to bill more in main care, more facility usage. We've been able to collect more in that area. I can't remember if there's another big area, Scott.
Interest revenue.
Interest revenue. It's another big one so we're able to bring in. That's just miscellaneous revenue that, we try to forecast what we're going to be bringing in for the coming year. So all told, we are up in our revenue, which is always good news for a school district, up just over $1.3 million in money that will be coming into the school district next year. It's good news. So based on all this information, in the town of Cumberland, we work with our town managers, to get this information. It's very early, and they are not finished with their budget process, and so this is all very preliminary, and I'm going to couch that and say that this will probably not be the final information that you see on tax effect, but the estimated mill rate increase, everything's a mill, based on a mill, is $1.24 for the town of Cumberland, or 5% for education. That means for every $100,000 of assessed property value, not market value, assessed property value. So don't think about the market value of your house. We all get market value stuff coming along, and it's just overinflated. Just think about what the town says the value of your property is. So every $100,000 of assessed property value would raise approximately $124 in the town of Cumberland for 25-26. Now I'm going to say, probably before I go to North Yarmouth, I'll just say this. I would be shocked if this number doesn't drop just a bit in terms of the tax effect in both Cumberland and North Yarmouth. Because right now, both managers have not calculated the growth in the community, which we get part of that growth factored into the assessment from each town. When that growth is factored in, we see taxes drop. So we are, I would say I'm very confident in saying, but I'm not gonna say 100%. Say 95, 96, 97% maybe. Confident that that $1.24 is gonna drop.
It's going down.
Scott says it's going down. I trust Scott.
New property valuation.
All right, North Yarmouth. North Yarmouth's estimated mill rate increase of 80 cents or 4%, more for education, again, $100,000. So kind of factor that in. If you have a $500,000 valued home in the town, it's $80 per every 100,000. You can calculate that out. Again, the North Yarmouth manager has not calculated in growth either. And after she does that, we also expect the tax effect for education to drop. This is something that I think a lot of people have weighed in on this over the years. So a couple of years ago, I put together this history of taxes and expenditures in our two towns over the last 10 years. It just kind of shows you where expenditures have come in. You can see in the last 3 years, our expenditures post-COVID have been a little bit higher than they were for years and years. We still are averaging 4.60% on expenditure increases from year to year. Cumberland's tax effect and increase, I haven't recalculated that, but you can see that there's been many years of fairly moderate tax increases in our district, including 0 in 2020, and same with North Yarmouth. So when we get that final tax effect or increase for both towns, I'll recalculate that for you at the bottom. So when I do the summary presentation in April, I'll have that information for you. And then finally, budget key points. Again, same points that I made at the beginning, so I won't reiterate it, except I did add one, salaries and benefits. We're a labor-intensive organization. 80% of our budget goes to people, pay people to work with our students. And that accounts for the increase out of the 7.47% expenditure increase that we're proposing for FY26, 6.50 out of that 7.47%, or 87%, is from salaries and benefits. Okay, if you didn't know what I was talking about, here you go. If you like visuals, it might be easier. So looking at the total increase for expenditures, 7.47%, and then line that up with 6.50% for total salaries and benefits. I'm sorry, just salaries for all of our bargaining units, and then 3.20% of that is just the teachers. And I'm just bringing that up because the teachers settled the collective bargaining agreement, and you can see the effect of that. And you can see all other is 0.97%. So less than 1% of the total expenditure increase of 7.47% is other than contractual salaries and benefits. We also have an annual report, and I'm not going to click on this, but it's on our website. It's been there since October. If you like any of this information, if you're really into this, like Scott loves the budget, and he's just like constantly playing with spreadsheets. But if you like just tons of data about our district, go to our annual report, because it will give you everything you ever want to know about this district. Plus, we have a data dashboard on our website, and it has more information that you'll know what to do with about our district. Budget next steps. There is a workshop for the budget that the board will be having in public session, but it's a workshop for the board to deliberate about the budget. It will be the next meeting, March 20th at 6 o'clock in this room. April 17th, there'll be a public hearing on the budget at 6 o'clock in this room. April 17th, the board will be voting whether to accept the proposed budget, make adjustments, but it is their official adoption of the budget where it gets transmitted from me to the board on the 17th. And then on May 8th is the district budget meeting. You invite anyone who is a voter in Cumberland, North Yarmouth, please come out for that meeting. You can vote on the budget, and then you get to vote again on June 10th in a validation referendum. So that's the schedule for the spring, and that is the budget presentation.
Thank you. I know a ton of work goes into getting ready for tonight, and it probably doesn't even feel like you're that far through this year to already be planning all these things out for next year. And thank you to the Finance Committee for all of your work getting ready for tonight as well. Really appreciate that. Kim, Sean, Sarah. Kim, is there anything as the Finance Chair? I know we have committee updates later, but since we're just presented the budget, not to put you on the spot, but I am.
Well, also, I want to thank Sarah and Sean. And I want to thank Scott and Jeff, because we were really pushing. I mean, I went through line by line in the budget. I nerded out the budget like Scott, and really went through, and we really questioned a lot. We questioned class size. We questioned books and supplies. I felt like we pushed harder than I felt comfortable pushing, and I feel like we did everything we could. And so I appreciate the level of respect and patience as we really dug in, and I feel confident that we did everything we could.
Thank you to Scott in the finance office as well. Scott and his team are often the ones, the numbers and the crunching and what happens if we do this, what does it do, how does it work? And then the Finance Committee has been wonderful in trying to help us figure out the priorities. What do they think the community can live with? What can we support? What can we advance? Those things. And our district leadership team has been instrumental in working with staff to get their budgets done, and then meeting with us multiple times throughout the process to talk about budget items and bring us up to speed. So thank you.
And thank you for keeping the slide on the budget next steps. I know we do have our workshop for the board. This is, like we said, the first time the board has really seen some of these details. But I don't know if there's any questions now that anyone wants, or things that they might want to see when we come back in 2 weeks. The one question I had was related just to the modulars, and I know that we've been getting some money back from the state on the modulars, and will we be getting additional offsets?
Yes, we get about $300,000 back based on square footage. So I think we've got a little over $700,000 in costs next year, and we'll get about $300,000 of that in state subsidy.
Okay. Obviously, I didn't want to have to see us need to continue to invest in modulars as we're about to break ground on the new school, but we knew with the timing that we were going to be off just a little bit at the middle school.
We've got 2 more years until we get into the new building, so having that space is important. And as Jeff mentioned earlier, the middle school modulars are older modulars with air handling units that are failing and do not have optimal air quality in them. So we'd like to replace those for teaching and learning reasons and for our staff.
Yeah, that's good for the next few years that those will be heavily used. Yeah, go ahead.
I do just want to remind everybody that the Finance Committee, myself especially, I am absolutely available to talk through any of this. I really do. I echo what Jeff said, what Leanna said. Please come to the budget workshop. We're going to dig in a lot more, but in the meantime, please reach out if you have any questions. I am happy to talk you through how we got here, where money goes, all of that. So this is meant to be a dynamic process. So please reach out.
And what gets posted? This presentation will get posted?
Yes, it'll be posted tomorrow on our website.
And the budget itself.
And the actual budget, line by line, account lines, everything will be posted tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. And I know a big wild card continues to be health insurance. And when do those rates usually come in?
April.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, around April and stuff. That's one of the larger pieces that we don't have yet. And, so anyway, and this budget's live right up until we, get through everything. So we're still going through it line by line. So.
Okay. Anything else from the board?
Thanks for putting this together. I think I just want to be sensitive to the fact that I know you three really well, and I totally understand all three of you are definitely the ones to question and push. You guys all have that personality type. And so, but there might be others out there in the community that don't know you all that well. And so I really do want to encourage people to go to those meetings because they do push. And I think I saw this, and even though I trust you guys very well, it was a gut punch. I mean, to see the increase that we're paying at the time that we're paying that. And I think we need to be, I think we are sensitive to that. And I think the only way to really be assured of that is to engage with us at this point. This is the time to engage. And what I can do from my end is if there's stuff in the facilities line that we can take a look at as a facilities committee, to just see, because it's great to see the stuff with teachers and the money that we've maxed out there, but are there other spots that we need to save to make sure that we are cutting during a sensitive time, even the ones that might be painful for us? So I'm happy from a facilities perspective to help you guys if there's anything we need to cross off or reevaluate there. So.
Yeah, it was hard to see the slide comparison over the years.
That slide was really good, and I'm glad you guys showed it, like
Yeah.
the increase, the average increase, and you didn't hide it, and you broke it down. That was excellent. And if Melissa did some of those, please give her our thanks.
Which slide are you referring to?
I think it was mostly Jeff.
It was the breakdown of the average, increases, and then you broke down specifically what that increase is due to, and I think that's really helpful for me to see because I was getting ready to ask it. So.
I was just going to say thank you for all the slides rather than the Greek that this is to me. Thank you for the English. I appreciate that a lot.
We have the Greek version.
Yeah.
I just want to echo the thanks to Jeff and to Scott, and my first time running through this budget and the budget season. I have a lot of concerns about the continual increase. I know obviously the largest driver is student enrollment, and we can't do anything about that. So, but that's a concern with our continual increases. There's dollars to that, and there's people to that. Not only people in our school, but our residents in our towns, and I'm very, very cognizant of that, and have mentioned already that I'd like to trim a little bit more in as many places as we possibly can to reduce the overall impact.
Yeah. And I know we're all sensitive to the school coming online, or payments for the school coming online. I think that will start next year. We'll see the debt service.
Let's see where we're going to be in FY26, FY27.
Okay.
I had one other question. Scott, do we have any debt service coming off next year?
We have declining debt, and the real, not quite as much, but the largest amount of debt's going to fall off right about the time we're taking on the new school. So we've actually worked a plan of finance that softens that debt with the use of our fund balance until we get to where that major debt drops off. So we've got a stair-tread approach to doing that, and so we don't feel the impact of that all in 1 year.
Okay. I had one other question. With the state and the budget deficit, does that impact our additional money?
So the
How does that-
governor always rolls out her budget in February or so, and we get provided the numbers for state subsidy. I don't remember, it's been a really long time since the state has been different from what they've initially given us by just a little bit.
Okay.
They might be a little bit here, a little bit there. There's only 1 year, it was a long time ago, I think during LePage's time in office, that they had a shortfall that was found out after the fiscal year ended.
Gotcha.
And something happened, I don't remember exactly what it was, and we actually got a reduction in our subsidy.
Great.
After the fiscal year had started. But generally speaking, I can't say that for sure, who knows, but generally speaking, the number they give us now is the number that's generally what we get.
Finding another million would be hard. Just saying.
And just for those types of subsidy loss issues, that's why we do carry a fund balance and we do carry an emergency fund. So.
Anything else tonight? Get ready, 2 weeks from now. Yeah. Okay. We are going to move to items for action. The first is related to a policy. So, Annika, would you like to make that motion?
Do that. Sorry, I'm just looking at something else.
Would you like to make the motion to approve policy FF, naming of facilities, as presented?
Like to move to
Thank you, Annika. Would anyone like to second?
I'd love to second
Thank
that.
you, Megan.
So I was not here for the first read, but I know that Jesse and Tim well represented the work of the policy committee in bringing this forward for first read. And just as a reminder for folks, since that was a ways back, we reviewed this policy as the board is moving forward with the One Campus project, and it applies to naming such as the recent MIW playground naming or reaffirming of name. It will apply to the new school campus, and any new campus roads that haven't been named, for which we've already received one request. And in reviewing the policy, we reviewed similar policies from other school districts in the area. And the updates that were made were intended to better define what is meant by facilities, a building, a portion of a building, a campus, or a portion of a campus, expand the scope of the policy to naming after organizations in addition to individuals, and clarify that a request may be made or may be referred to an appropriate existing committee or group, as opposed to only a new committee, and reinforce our commitment to getting stakeholder feedback on namings. And there have not been any changes that I'm aware of between first and second read. So,
Great. Any other questions or comments from the board? Great. All in favor? Great. No one opposed. So that passed. Thank you. We're excited to start having some of these naming conversations. So the next item for action is a vote to authorize the superintendent to execute on an extension of employment contracts for administrators. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Sean. Can I have a second?
Second. You already did one.
Sarah? We'll get back to Sarah. Do you want to just remind everyone about this item? Thank you.
This item's in your packet, and it has a list of the administrators that are recommended for continuing employment, and also you'll see it's indicated there's administrators that are indicated that are probationary, and then the rest of the administrators are continuing administrators. So there's an evaluation difference between a probationary administrator and one who's continuing.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Great. We have quite the slate of talented administrators.
Yes, there are.
All in favor? Great. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Can I add one thing? Just as we, sorry, as we think about it, we just passed, but I just want to, too late. I know, I know. It's a good thing. We didn't really dig into this too much. We'll dig into it at the budget workshop, but given the number of legal costs, the number of extra work that the district leadership team has to take on, that was something that we did discuss during the budget of how to alleviate some of that, and that was one of the things that did not advance. So since we just approved the contract, I just want to take a moment and acknowledge the many, many, many hours that our district leadership team puts in, and wish we could do more.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for adding that. All right. Tim, do you have the motion in front of you for the next one? Do you want to do
do.
this? All right.
All right.
Would you like to make a motion, Tim?
Sure. I move to award the contract to construct a new maintenance building on the Greeley campus to Benchmark Construction, which submitted the lowest bid in a competitive bid process, and to authorize the superintendent to negotiate and sign said contract.
Thank you, Tim. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Megan. our building committee. Questions? Or should we also just kind of present? I'm like, I know I've seen it, but that's probably because I go to the facilities committee meeting. So maybe just giving an overview of how many bids that we received.
Yeah, do you want me to do that, or do you want to do it, Tim?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So we had seven bidders that came in. They were all qualified. They went through pre-qualifications, and they were the lowest base bid was Benchmark, which is being recommended for approval tonight at 1.537 million. And there are two alternates, alternate 1, alternate 2. The building committee discussed that and decided to wait on those alternates and not add them to the price right now, and just wait because we have other parts of the project that need to be we need to wait for and see what the pricing will be on that. So anyway, there were 7 very qualified applicants, but that was the low bidder.
Yeah, we were thrilled to get a number of competitive bids, and yes, that the price came in under some of the estimates we've been receiving. So, other questions on the board? It's so exciting. It's one of the first formal things that we're really getting to move forward on as part of the building project. All in favor? Wonderful. It's
Okay,
unanimous.
awesome.
Thank you. All right, Jesse, are you ready for the next one? Do you want to do this?
All right, so I'd like to move that we vote to award the contract to furnish and install a synthetic turf system on the Greeley campus to Geosurfaces, which submitted the lowest bid in the competitive bidding process, and to authorize the superintendent to negotiate and sign said contract.
Thank you, Jesse. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Oh. We'll give it to Christina. She was on the turf committee. Thank you. Questions? Comments?
Just want to put it out there to the universe. This has no PFAS. That was the precondition of the committee, and particularly with Jesse's lead, the public really should applaud him. He was like a dog with a bone, and he pursued all the options. The one we're going with, if we so vote, has no infill. There is no conflict with what the town council has chosen to pursue. The committee had made its decisions about no PFAS before that decision. People have expressed concerns that, oh my God, now it's in conflict. No, actually, our decision preceded that. So, frankly, kudos to the committee. There were many different public members on the committee, and we went for it, we found it, and if you vote for it, we've got it. Just wanted the world to know that.
Thank you, Christina. And yes, we had a really incredible turf committee with both board members and under Jesse's leadership, and some incredible administrators, students, and then also community members. This was a really great process and fun to be part of.
I'll just note we did have some alternates for a more expensive shock pad or a thicker type of the product. And I wouldn't recommend that we go with any of those alternates, that we go with the base bid after looking at the safety specifications, and we're going to be using it for multiple sports, and the performance specifications. I think the base bid that we got is the bid we should go with, and I'll note it's coming in under budget, and the product that we are selecting has a 12-year warranty, which is longer than any other warranty for any other product. So it may seem slightly expensive, but my son, who's in kindergarten, will be playing on this field. So I think it's exciting to be looking at a environmentally friendly, as much as it can be, long-lasting, good value for money product.
Great.
Can you also just plug for the concussion rating?
Yeah. I mean, so it has a shock pad underneath that has a sort of guaranteed level of a Gmax rating, which is how hard you can bonk your head. And so, yeah, there's like a guaranteed level of safety. I mean, so that's in the contract. That's part of the warranty, that, you'll bonk your head and it will never go past a certain amount. So like that, there's just a baseline level of safety there that we don't need to worry about.
And we reviewed this and the other bids at the building committee, and I just want you to know how far we've come, because the other bid that came in was a product that probably would have been in like our first round of consideration, and almost everyone was like, ew, no, look at these PFAS standards and all. Like Jesse has really educated us on it, and the disgust on us around the other bid, what they would even dare try to put something like that in front of us at first. Like that's what it felt like. And so while that was probably a very good product, where we've shifted in terms of our priorities, what's good for our town has been immense. And so, kudos to the turf committee for doing that.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, this portion of the turf budget came in under, we still have groundwork that's going to be bid out separately, but the expectation that the project in general will be coming in under budget, so that's really exciting. All right, any other questions or comments? All in favor? Great. It's unanimous. Whew. And moving on, can I have a motion to approve the new and extended modular leases as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
I'll get mine in.
Any additional, I know we kind of already talked about this, and is there any other questions or anything to add?
It's an extension of the leases at Mabel I. Wilson, 2 of the modulars at Mabel I. Wilson. There's a third at Mabel I. Wilson, which is an addition, which will come up again in another year. But it's the extension of those leases and also new leases to replace the 3 buildings that are there now and 1 additional new building at the middle school. That's what that is.
And I'll just add that even though I made the motion, it was one that I really wish I didn't have to make a motion for. I genuinely wish this was not necessary, and I pushed and I asked, and the rest of the finance committee did too, and we had to be convinced that this was needed, and it is absolutely needed. There are no other options, and we really, really tried. So I make the motion regretfully, but also confidently.
I know, I think at one point I was like, no, but then I had to be convinced as well. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to ask maybe whether it's Kim or Scott, if you could kind of give us again that rationale that convinced you in terms of enrollment, just kind of reiterating the need maybe as well as the timing for why this needs to be voted on tonight.
I mean, I can speak to the timing, which is just based on the new building not opening for 2 years, and that these leases will expire the summer that the building opens. Okay, the new facility opens. As far as the need for enrollment and stuff, Jeff, do you want to talk to that? Because we spoke about that in the grade configurations at the middle school.
Yeah, I mean, the enrollment, as I mentioned earlier, at 6-8 and at 4-5 have both been going up over the last few years. I think you all know that. It was below 800 students 4-8, and now we're just below 900 students. So, I mean, we keep going up, and we're forecasting another 50, 60 students. So. It is absolutely needed. We did, and as much as the finance committee pressed on us, we pressed on the school administration at the middle school and really asked some tough questions about, do we need this? Can we try something else? How can we get through? Can we move a space around in the middle school? And the answer is we just don't have anything left. We're out, and that's why we really need a new building, which is I'm glad we're getting in order to handle all this enrollment, which we knew was coming, forecasted all of it. It's necessary.
Mm-hmm. And our short-term facilities plan had more of a setup very similar to Mabel I. Wilson School, but which was going to be a modular building of multiple classrooms with bathrooms in it and facilities in it. Because we're actually going to be opening the new building in 2 years, we chose not to go that direction and just stay with the singular modular buildings, which have far less cost to them than the structure that we have at Mabel I. Wilson School. I mean, Mabel I. Wilson School, we literally have a school outside the school. So.
And do we know yet what classes will be in the modulars at the middle school, for example? I know a lot of the modern languages are in but that
Yeah.
could change.
The administrators have not decided that yet. I think they wanted to, first of all, make sure we got to this point in the budget process before they really started talking about it. But they will be making those decisions together.
Okay. And just to clarify my question on the timing, it was more about tonight versus as we continue on in the budget process.
Oh, that's a great point. Well, Schiavi is our carrier, and we have to sign an agreement with them in order for them to get this work done over the summer. If we wait any longer, we're not gonna get it.
They're brand-new buildings, and they require lead time in order for construction. And so that's why we have to order them now and enter it into the lease now. There's several other components. There's the heating and cooling units, which are separate, which get delivered separately to the factory, and then the modulars have to be built. So if we were to wait further on in the budget process, we wouldn't have these modulars in place for the start of the school year, because we wouldn't hit the timing of the construction and the lead time.
And since we're only using them for 2 years, what is the reason for us needing brand new ones?
Aging modulars across the state. If you look at the ones that are down there now, they have old air handling units in them. And the old air handling units, you can't even get parts for any longer. The ones at Mabel I. Wilson School have the newer air handling units, which do heat and AC, and they're far more quiet and better air quality into the building. So, and there's practically, I mean, modulars are being used all across the state.
There's not like a market of
there isn't like a
used.
parking lot somewhere with 20 modulars in it that we can take from. So, and that's really the issue. So.
Okay.
And can you remind everyone how long those modulars have been? Maybe you said it and I missed it, but how long the modulars have been at the middle school?
3?
It might be longer than 3. I think it might be 4.
Yeah. We started, we added another one, so yes, it's been 4 years, I believe.
The middle school came after Wilson.
expire.
Wilson's been there for 8 or 9 years at least.
Yeah. And it's, but there were modulars that were at Mabel I. Wilson School that we had moved to the middle school. So those ones were actually at the Wilson School to start with. So
Okay, those same ones.
those same ones,
Okay,
other than
right.
one of them
Thank
was
you.
a
That
new one,
should
but
have-
most of
I
those
should
were
have said
there,
that.
and then
That
we
is
shifted them
helpful.
over to the middle school.
Okay.
At the time.
So they're
And
more
there's-
than 5 years
Yeah,
old.
and there's also, I mean, there's a cost to setting them up. There's utility cost, alarm cost, this setup and tear down. So it's not just the lease cost. There's other costs that we've had to carry in our facilities budget that are for setting those units up, sprinkled. They all have to be sprinkled now, which was something that was new, 4 years ago, so.
And this will cover us for 2 years. We're not
This is-
coming back next year and saying,
This is 2 years, and then the only thing that I could see is an extension of the one at Mabel I. Wilson School for a year, maybe.
Well, let me just also reiterate, and on top of that,
More at the
so
middle
there
school.
is one more in the summer of 2026 that we're going to need. So there's 2 rooms to handle the enrollment between now and the time we open the building. We need 2 rooms this summer and 2 more rooms the summer after due to enrollment. So there's no way we can get away with just adding 2 rooms and we're done with it. So we're gonna be adding 2 rooms, and then in the summer of 27 or 26, we're adding 2 more rooms.
is
So
there,
4 rooms altogether need to be added in order to handle the enrollment at that school. And we did ask the planning
It's 2
board to go
years.
ahead and approve it in advance,
Yeah.
which they graciously did, in order to allow us to do that.
Did that on the site plan review when we
Yeah.
went for the
I
new
mean, I
school.
do remember when we were talking about the plans for the new school that this would be coming. It's just still hard to, and so we're gonna have to go back and do more work next summer?
Yes.
To add 1 more.
This coming.
It won't
s-
be replacing anything, it'll just be adding that last one.
So this summer that we're coming up on, okay, as we come to this particular summer, there'll be the removal of the old units. There's already electricity, network, cabling, phones, all that are already out in that location. So we'll be replacing those units on that area. There'll be a gravel pad that'll be spread down, and then there's also 1 more modular, the new one that'll be coming on, which will have to have internet technology, power sprinkler system added to it as well, so.
And is there any cost savings by just doing the work once?
I don't believe so, because what we've done is we've gone through all of this. We've actually run the conduits large enough in anticipation of pulling the cables through and doing the setups and so forth. And I don't see any economies of scale to buying more equipment, because the equipment is just X costs for setting up the buildings in terms of networking. Like the pieces of equipment. I don't really see that. And then the sprinklering of the building, it's, so much per foot for sprinkler system, et cetera, so.
Right, I guess like just putting in the additional ones that we would need next summer now, there's no.
There may be some economies of scale with some of the site work, but I think it would be minimal.
Other questions?
I have to be honest, I'm struggling with this one.
Yeah.
And my kids are this. I don't want my kids necessarily. Like my kids are right in this age range, so I don't want to even really consider those other options and want to put them into different spots. But I think I need a little bit more. Then we talked to the teachers and we couldn't think of anything. So I think I need just a few more specifics. So like, is it possible, or what would prohibit us from, for 2 years, increasing class size? Like, what would that look like? What are some of the other options that we could do to prevent this? Or is there just no other actual feasible way? Like, how did you push back to the staff?
So I will say that all four of 4-8 has some of the largest class size. Well, they do have some of the largest class sizes in the district as 4-8. So pre-K to 3, we try to keep the class sizes down, and also in the 20 rooms or 22 classrooms that we've got in the modulars at Mabel Wilson School, we have to keep some of those class sizes a little bit smaller because they're modular classrooms and they're smaller than the other rooms. But at 4-8, historically, and we continue, those are our largest class sizes already. So if you go into a 4-8 classroom, you're at 20 plus.
Is it possible?
At least.
Not even just like, is it even possible to add more? Or would that be getting to a safety concern?
It would not only get into a safety concern, I think it gets into a whole instructional and learning
Well, yeah,
concern.
for that, I get that.
It definitely would. And then we're talking about staff reductions at that point, because we wouldn't need as many staff if we're going to put more kids in classrooms. The space at GMS, I mean, it's a very large facility, but it's running to schedules. And there's a lot of duplication of services because you have to have 4 or 5, you have to have an elementary and then middle school. We've made efforts, and I actually think we have a little bit more space and don't have to add more than 2 rooms, because we are doing a little bit of consolidation of programming as we've gone over time to bring the 4-8 programming together, and we're continuing to do that for next year. So we're actually, I think, saving the fact that we would have to add more rooms. We're trying to add as low amount that we have to. Yeah, I mean, we've asked all these questions, and it's just, it's hard. It's like, really? We only have 2 more years till we get into this building. Can't we just
We didn't want to add them.
We didn't want to add them. In fact, it wasn't even part of our initial, our list.
Yeah.
The district office list, until later, after we continued having discussions and looking at everything.
But as we did our enrollment projections, when we were looking at, when the building project failed, we looked at our enrollment projections. We knew we were going to have to put these modules in place.
Yeah.
Several years ago. I mean, this should
that's
come as
why
no surprise,
the original
because it's something
schedule,
that we've been
we're hoping to
expecting.
have a school open sooner.
Exactly.
To not do this. And I do remember that this had come up. It's just really hard again when you're actually back to voting on it, and not that I would put a condition on my vote tonight, because who knows, I'm in the last of my 3rd-year term for next year, but I would love for us to not have to come back and add the other 2 if there's just anything else that we can do to
I would like to not come back and add another 2 too. I think we have, when we looked at the short-term facilities plan and we looked at this year in particular, I don't see another way around it. I'll be very honest and say I have not dug in that deep for a year from now yet, even though it's in our short-term facilities plan, and that was approved before the bond passed. But we haven't done our homework yet for a year from now. We have done our homework for this next fiscal year. We'll be doing the same thing again a year from now. So
I mean, it's unfortunate. It's $700,000 in leases that are a sunk cost. you know, when we didn't have a project that passed, and there's also a lot of cost in the setup. I mean, MIW was huge cost to build that complex. I mean, there was a huge cost affiliated with that because we didn't have a building project that passed. So, so we've had that sunk cost that we've had to absorb over these years.
Go ahead, Katie.
I was just wondering, what grades are in portables? Is it one grade in specific, and it's multiple grades?
Yeah, it's world languages right now that are in the 6 rooms. Because now there will be 8, the administrators aren't sure that they want to keep that model, but we don't know yet.
Okay, and then is it all world languages, or are there some world languages that are inside?
I think all of I'm trying to remember. I know all the Spanish classes are outside. There's a couple that are inside because
French is outside too.
yeah, French is, but we have a couple of teachers that actually teach. We have one teacher that teaches inside languages and art, so her classroom is inside the building, so I can't say it's all world languages.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
MIW's second grade and
Second and third grade.
second and
all,
third grade.
Both, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Wait,
Two whole grade levels.
so second and third grade are in portables as well?
At Mabel Wilson.
The
At Mabel
whole
Wilson?
grades.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is there any like emphasis or like attempts, or could there be, to keep students maybe not in the same consecutive year in a portable, to like provide that social kind of change? And like, because like I know you were talking about the class sizes get smaller while you're in portables, and could there be more emphasis on like taking a student who might be in second grade in a portable and making an attempt to have them not in a portable third grade, or would all classes be in portables for those grades?
Yeah, it would be
Some
almost
population.
impossible for us to move that around now. And with only 2 years left, I wouldn't want to. And I think that's been a lot of lengthy conversations with the staff and the administration at that school to do that. And I will say that they moved portable buildings from second to third. So it's kind of like they're in a new space again. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's exciting, but it's different.
Go to a different building.
And so they are getting a different experience. At least they can look out a different window.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Christina has.
I don't know how I follow that up. I was just going to say, I agree. I mean, it's really sad we have to absorb this cost, and it's sunk cost. It's just gone. However, it's not for lack of trying to get a building sooner, and it just wasn't to be. I would note, so there's the cost, and there's also the isolation of the environment for the students. It's a bummer. They have to be out there, and they're isolated in some regards from the rest of the school. However, as a teacher, I would say, honestly, the number one thing that could make or break my enjoyment or life as a teacher is class size. I mean, you can talk about salary and benefits and days off and summer and whatever, but class size. And I think we can all in a way relate to that, because seriously, whenever we've all gone to buy a house or whatever, and you want to build that house, or it's not available yet, it's available in 2 years, how many of us really choose, like, okay, we'll just live in that 2-bedroom house, smush the 3 kids in 1 bedroom, it's just 2 years. I mean, that's kind of comparable. You're just smushing them in. Imagine what that living environment would be like. And that's kind of like what it would be putting on to the teachers if we made the classrooms, the class sizes that much bigger. I mean, yes, I agree, the costs, the isolation issues, but really, would we really choose that for 2 years for our house? So, my 2 cents.
Thank you, Christina.
Yeah, and I would say that most of the classes, just off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember, are 22 or more at 6-8 right now. And they are somewhere in that range for 4 or 5 for most of our classes. They're in that 22, 21, 22, 23 student range right now. So we're already kind of pushing it.
Yeah. So I'm just going to point out that legally you can't go over a 25-to-1 ratio for, what is it, kindergarten through 8. You can do it short term for 45 calendar days at the discretion of the school board. After that, you got to get a waiver from the commissioner. And since we know this is coming, it's like, I don't love that we have to pay money for these stupid things when we have a school coming, but also, like, we didn't vote to build the school early enough, and so we have to eat the cost. And to the point about socialization, my daughter spent 2nd grade in the portables last year. She's spending 3rd grade in a portable building this year, and she loves it and knows all the teachers around them because it's like a portable school. Like all of 2nd grade is in a hallway, all of 3rd grade's in a hallway. So 2nd and 3rd grade at Mabel I. Wilson is not suffering from being in the portables. We are suffering from paying for portables that aren't a permanent asset that improves our property
kids
values.
love the
So,
portables.
They
like,
do.
I don't love voting
They
for
do.
it, but also we can't go above 25-1. And if we're at 22-23, it doesn't sound like there is wiggle room to do it. So, like, we should have had a better school plan that we could get everybody to vote on earlier, but we didn't. And so, like, we kind of have to suck it up, I guess. I mean, I don't see another magic solution.
They do. They
Yeah, so
really do.
Mabel I. Wilson, the kids are fine, and it's just language classes at the middle school, and in 2 years we won't have to wring our hands about this.
Well, and they have bathrooms, so they don't have to walk into the building to use the
Yeah,
bathroom.
exactly.
So we installed bathrooms in them.
Not at the middle school.
Not at the middle school.
Not at the
just
middle
clear,
school.
The middle school.
But I kind of
Elementary.
have been told that students kind of like being able to leave and go to the bathroom.
Oh
you know,
yeah,
leave the room.
I've heard that.
It's a little bit larger grade level at the middle school to be able to go in, so.
Sarah.
I just wanted to, can we get the dollar value between a better used modular versus buying a new modular?
There are none available. I mean, that's the point that we're at right now. Schiavi has nothing else available. They've got the older units, and they're actually parting out the older units to keep some of the other units going, and, but that's why.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah.
Can we buy them through like some co-op?
I know.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Just had to
right.
say.
Modular co-op.
Jesse,
I never
Fine.
looked at Sourcewell, actually.
I mean, we looked at a lot of options. We looked at stick building them. Then the problem is set up, tear down. What do you do with them at the end of the time? So we looked at a number of ways at
Other
what was the most
districts have even
cost-effective.
contacted us. When are you getting rid of your modules? Because we want them,
Oh.
we need them.
Oh yeah.
Do we own any to sell and make some?
No, but
we own any.
they're just waiting to have them. So
Yeah.
we sell the ramps and the other pieces. but-
Okay. All right.
I will note that Sourcewell, you can get the box modulars through the Sourcewell co-op. They might be over $250,000. So until the legislature fixes the loophole that doesn't let us use them for building projects, because this is definitely a building, it's not a turf field. So
Legislation.
do you know anybody that
Is it a
could
cooperative
fix
thing?
that?
yeah.
Is it cooperative purchasing?
We're doing
thing?
well with Schiavi
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of our
That would be
relationship. And that's
purchasing,
Box. Schiavi is actually Box.
Oh.
Purchasing.
Okay? They're the same company. Schiavi and Box are the same company.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't be able to do it anyways until we fix the law. But
right.
when we do, the next
we
school
do.
district can benefit.
They were
Any
bought
other
out by a big corporation.
questions, comments? All in favor?
Just,
I know,
small
right?
raise.
Slowly.
All right.
Right. Thank you. It's unanimous.
Modular, that's
And I appreciate, we know that you've done due diligence and.
Oh, yeah. No,
I-
they're all good questions.
Right, we just,
Oh,
Ones
great
we've been
questions.
through and, yep. and
we've
we know.
been doing modulars for a while now.
Yeah, I still remember, I know Shirley still remembers, we did it many, many years ago too, behind the old junior high. We had Portable City, and behind the high school, we had it back then as well.
Yes, yeah, it was nice.
We had them, so.
Can we not, like, I've had a kid in looping for the last couple of years, and she keeps switching, or no, they keep switching back and forth on the ends, and as a parent, I have no idea where my kid is. I just know, like, I've gone, and it's been a mind, like, mess up, because I have no idea where they're at. I just know that their end at some place, it's a mirror image.
That might be on purpose, who knows?
All right, last item for action. Can I get a motion to approve the 25-26 school calendar as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Annika. Can I have a second?
Second.
Great, thank you, Christina. It's been up on the screen for a bit. Do you want to just talk a little bit about how the calendar gets put together?
I would love to do that, and I just had it. Okay. So basically, we start, and I know this is small on the screen. I think it's also in your board packet. The calendar is built regionally. We start with a region. There are, I think, 8 districts that I work with that send students to paths, and that's state law. So we have to make sure that our calendars match up together, and we don't have any more than 5 dissimilar days, or we have to go back and start all over again. So we work together on that. That's the first place that I start. The next place is that we start to develop. There's not a lot of wiggle room after that because there's we basically decide regionally, when are you starting school, when are you ending school, where are the vacations. That's really important, the vacations, because that can throw off a lot of dissimilar days. So you'll see that those vacations are in there. And then Marie Bilcock, in her role as the curriculum director, works on the cultural holidays, which are attached to the calendar, and make sure that they are lined up and designated, and that we have those communicated clearly, which is on the back of the calendar. Marie also worked with a community member and a parent in our community who is very knowledgeable about the cultural holidays, and she's been a great resource for us. So this calendar calls for, once again, school starting after Labor Day. Labor Day is, once again, very early. It's the 1st. So that means that we would start school on September 2nd for grades 1 through 9. Grades 10 to 12, as we've done for a couple of years now, would start on the 3rd. We would have just freshmen on the 2nd alone. And then kindergarten and pre-K start after that. So we would be looking, trying to read that really carefully. Kindergarten starts on the 4th, and pre-K would start on Friday the 5th as their first day. So it's actually quicker than we've done in some years, trying to get all of our students in by the end of that first academic week, really important. So this calendar does have something that only happens once every 7 years, like a broken mirror, I guess, but we have 2 weeks for the holiday break this year. That was a regional decision, so we don't have much say in this. We had talked initially about having school on the 22nd and 23rd of December. Regionally, nobody really wanted that. We went back and double-checked that with the association and leadership, and they concurred that they really didn't like that idea either. So there's 2 weeks in this calendar. Again, it only happens every few years. There's only 2 traditional weather days in this calendar, and it's because we're starting after Labor Day and we have that 2-week break in December. We have a little bit less wiggle room in the calendar in order for school to end by June 18th. June 19th is a holiday, so we have traditionally not gone beyond the holiday of June 19th. And so there's only 2 traditional weather days built in, which means that once those 2 traditional days are done, we go to remote. We've usually had 3. When I checked in with the association leadership, with our leadership team, they all thought that it was fine to take that gamble. Instead of trying to cut back on the 2-week holiday break or try to add April 17th, which traditionally, that was actually an option the region did leave open to everybody if you wanted to have school on April 17th, which is the Friday before the break. We've usually taken that off, and half the districts are taking it off, half the districts are going ahead and having school that day. We've never had school that day, and when I checked in with the association and leadership team, nobody seemed interested. So we kind of left that out. Other notes for this is that there is an additional teacher work day that was settled in the teacher's contract. So now that they're at 184, any member of the teacher's unit, they'll be going 184 days. The 184th day by contract is a self-directed professional development day, so you won't actually see it captured on this calendar, but it's noted, and there'll be a process for approval as it was settled through the contracts. There's 32 early release days built in this calendar. It's a little bit higher than usual. We usually average 25 to 27, but it's just the way this calendar worked. And traditionally in the calendar, if there is a full week of school, 5 days, everybody knows that there's an early release. If there's anything less than a 5-day week, everybody knows there's no early release on that Wednesday. And that's been how we've done that for a very long time. Some of those early releases are for parent conference days that are designated. There's 4 of them. And then the last day of school is always a half day. So I think I covered all the big points on this calendar.
Thank you. And just also a reminder, we had scheduled the first and second read both today because we had missed the first read in February, and we just wanted to be able to start getting the calendar out. But if there's major questions or issues, we can hold it. But we just want to give an opportunity if we're able to get through the first and second read today. There is something, and I think this was in your note, and I forget if you just said it or not, to the board, that there is 32 half-day Wednesdays, which is much more than usual. It happens to be how the calendar falls. And I know how much, we value these for our teachers to be able to have those half-days, but it is quite a few number more than they typically have. And I know from a parent perspective, these days are a challenge, and so I would like to suggest that the administration looks to see how they can reduce that number back to what is more typical, which I think is 25 to 27, not 32.
I think it's 29. 29 run, that's
29 what? Typical?
29 early release Wednesdays. I think typically.
That's how many this year? Is that
No,
what you're
I
saying?
think typically it's 29.
Okay.
It's, I have to make that calculating in my other job
We should
a
probably
lot.
count up what we have this year. I don't remember. And sometimes we're counting I'm trying to remember parent conferences in those.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't.
Right.
So I have to double check that. But either way, it's still,
Either
it is
way,
still a little bit more
it
than
is
normal, just the way the calendar worked out.
quite a few.
And I will say that all the child cares, all of the rec camps and all of those things would make their plans off the schedule. So that may be supportive for parents.
So, yeah, I guess my suggestion is to consider recommending reducing the number, since it is more than we have ever had.
I don't remember it being this many. I think it's just it's a strange year where the 2 weeks and all that, yeah.
So just wanted to see.
Is that in the teacher contract anywhere that there's a guaranteed number of?
No. Nope.
Would you expect that there would be pushback from teachers or the association if we lowered the number?
Well, it's educational policy. The calendar is educational policy, so the board has complete say in what days look like, a student day or whatnot. So that's within the board's purview to make that decision.
Oh, because we're second and first and second.
Any other?
25. Do you want me to count on this calendar?
25
There
20,
this year.
25 this year.
25 of the purple days, which is early release.
Mhm.
And then the green days, which are early release, parent teacher, there are 4.
So
So that'd be
29.
29.
So that is the 29. Okay. And the 32 is both the.
Both.
Okay. So it's 3 more than we have this year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, I'm just trying to remember, but I think 29 is even high for us generally speaking. I think what it is that it's just easier, like I mentioned, for people to remember, if it's a holiday week or whatnot. But I know this has been a topic almost every single year the calendar comes up, is how many early release days we've got.
Right. Which then makes it, hard for me to not then ask if this is that many more than we typically have. Should we not consider?
I guess the only question I would have then is is there an good administrative way to pick days if we were going to reduce it?
We would ask the administration to recommend.
I think I would ask our leadership team to look at that and give a recommendation. I mean, if you're, let's just say that you're reducing 3 days or 3 release days to get back to the 29, then I would talk with the leadership team, and I'm just completely making this up. They might say, well, it might be better to have full day student days in September. So we'll just say the month of September, we're not going to have any early release days, just because we know that's like beginning of the year, good learning time for all the kids. I'm making this completely up, but it might be to make it easy for people. We just say that month we're not doing any early releases, and then we start right in with the same schedule as usual after that. If we were going to talk about it, I'm sure that's something that would come up.
We have
So
an
from a
update
parent
on the numbers,
cost,
by the
oh
way.
sorry, from a parent cost perspective, and Sarah, thank you for sharing your experience. That would also be asking parents to potentially pay for 3 additional days that they don't currently have to pay for childcare for. Am I thinking about that right?
Well, it depends on parents. I mean, obviously, on early release days, we have lots of kids that go to rec, and
Yeah.
then we have lots of kids that go all different places on early release days at the elementary level. I
But
know
it's not like a
Sarah gets
set
lot of
fee
them.
for.
Sarah gets a lot
is
of
it?
them.
Yes, Sarah.
It's not like a set fee for the year. I mean, it would be whatever parent pays for that. I'm assuming it's on a per day basis. It would be 3 more days.
Somebody's watching their kids.
Yeah, it's,
Yes.
it's,
Getting paid.
we
Correct.
you create the need base based on the calendar and count the number of day,
Yeah.
additional hours and so on and so forth.
When does the ski program be? Oh, I'm sorry.
Did I cut somebody off? Our numbers might be a little bit off because for the upcoming 25, 26, it doesn't come out to 32.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it doesn't look
Yeah.
like it's that much different. When I do a
not, yeah,
quick
it's-
look at the calendar,
We came up
nothing
with-
jumps out at me.
Yeah, we came up with 31, including the last day of school being a half day. So
And the number I gave you for this current year, add 1 to that for the last day of school being a half day. So it's off by 1, I think.
Okay.
The difference between this
So it
year
may
and
not be
next.
as off
It's not as big.
many
Yeah.
as we were thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, when does the ski program typically start? That early release Wednesday one, does that happen in December? Does anybody know?
Does anyone know? I don't remember.
I think they typically start in January, and then it's done before. It's done in late February for early release Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm just thinking December might be another place to play with, because if they're already having the full 2 weeks off. And then just as an editing or a nitpicky thing, May does not have how many student days.
Oh.
At the bottom,
At the
each
note,
month
yeah.
has the number of student days. May does not have that.
Oh, jeez. You know how many people we have looking at this thing?
job.
Like a dozen to 15 people.
She's looking at our budget, people, so that's good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting.
And I had one color question. Is there a reason why we need the blue and the yellow?
Where the blue? You mean
So
they're
the
designating
blue is
different
the
things.
professional learning days, teachers only, no students. Yellow is flex days, teachers only, no students.
Yellow, it's like tan.
It's really more of like a beige.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's
The yellow is not yellow.
Yellow's orientation.
Beige. I meant
yeah. I
beige.
mean that's this calendar is obviously used by staff, parents, and students, and so those are the flex days that staff receive for conference. It's basically for conferences.
Okay.
They get that flex day off.
Oh, I thought green were conference days. But anyway, okay.
No, those are flex days. That's just for staff though. It's not for everybody else.
Okay.
Jeff, I have one more question.
Yeah.
And it's about, I think maybe my favorite school-related thing is about snow days. So I do not envy your position, although I want your position to call school days and snow days. But how was like the amount of snow days factor into your decision to potentially call school? And could we potentially, like, is there a rationale to get rid of some of those, not get rid of, since if we do have more remote days where, let's just be honest, like sometimes the learning is not as, I don't think, as great in the instruction remote as it is in person, like perhaps we get some of that instructional time back, or it's not as impactful if we had more full day Wednesdays. So that's just a thought. But just in terms of your philosophy, in terms of the amount, like how nervous are you about just having 2 days to call off for full school?
Well, we've had a little bit more of a winter this year, so I feel it goes in cycles. So maybe next year will be lighter, but it could be 2 in a row. I just don't know. I will say that I don't get nervous about the snow. I just get tired getting up at 4 in the morning. But many days
You could
have
call
to
it
get
the
up.
night before.
Yeah.
Well,
I knew that was coming.
I know.
into
Well, the high school, I get a lot of seniors that like to, every year, the seniors, because they don't have to make them up, so they like to give me reasons why I should be calling snow days. However, I will say that on that note, the board, because it's an educational policy, the board could adjust the calendar. Let's just say it's one of those winters where it's like 9 days or something. It hasn't been like that forever. But if that were to happen, there could be, the board, I would bring it back to the board because you set the calendar. I'd say, you know, we might want to think about doing some full days here. We're not going to.
Okay.
But the problem is that the state doesn't recognize that as being an additional day. An early release and a full day are the same to the state in
Yep.
terms of getting the school days in. So they don't recognize it, but it would be a learning change, a learning environment change that the board can make.
That's helpful. I'm just thinking more of like quality instructional time, just to make sure that we still get that. And so Wednesdays are a possibility, but that's very helpful.
The other thing I will say is that we have an additional day beyond what the state requires built into this calendar, which we've had forever. And it's, but it also is a staff day that, you know, staff get paid to work it. But I think, I don't think we've ever, oh no, we did during COVID 1 year. We just knocked one of the days off. And the board agreed to it. Just go ahead and just get rid of it. That was it.
Okay.
So, but that was a very bad COVID time, and everybody agreed. So,
I just want to note to close off this conversation, it is supposed to snow tonight.
it is.
Mr. Porter, this rain is turning into snow. It's supposed to stop about 3 a.m., but you probably better get up at 4 just to be sure. Message with love.
Can't wait.
So is there any other comments or questions about the calendar? I guess, is there interest in putting any contingencies on the Wednesdays, asking to reduce by a few more? I mean, I have interest in at least getting back down to numbers that we're used to, but I don't know if we'd have to put another motion back out or, but I just am interested if there's other support.
I'm not supporting that.
Yeah, and I would rather put it in September than I would December because I have these 12 kids who come, and December is when we do all of our holiday projects and those early release days. So you can tell the kids they can't make their salt dough ornaments. I'm just saying.
Finger turkey.
Yeah, if we had to do one, could we just do it? Yeah, could we do it September 10th? Have like a full week of school to start, just like really,
Yeah, I think-
really
I mean-
crush the kids' souls by making them be there.
Oh yeah.
A full week.
Well, back in my day, we didn't have anything. So, I mean, we're brainstorming. So the other possibility is November, because November is such a choppy month to begin with. It's so short and so it's very choppy.
Oh, but I'm just gonna say we cannot put early release on the 12th.
Oh, it wouldn't be because that's not a full week.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I meant the
It's a
two
national
the
holiday.
two that are there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would just be taking away whatever number that we think is more in line with the number that we'd like to see for next year.
Are there any considerations for when is more important, I guess, for the professional development to be happening, or what would be least disruptive to the professional development?
Yeah, it's 50-50. Like, it's hard to say because I would say professional development's always more purposeful in the beginning of the year, or it's received better, I think. People are still fresh. But also instructional time is also better at the beginning of the school year too. I think it goes both ways. Another good month for everything is January. Everybody's kind of ready to go again. So. I'll be consulting Luann and Margaret when we get finished with this.
So I'll just put a suggestion to make a motion to approve the 25-26 school calendar with some changes by administration on reducing the number of half-day Wednesdays back in line with past averages, past half-day, numbers of half-days that were in the past.
And sorry, what were can you remind me, what were the numbers of half-days prior to?
Well, I'm giving you an average. So an average of 25 to 27, but that did include, now that I'm looking back, it did include the parent conferences, so.
Didn't?
It did. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're at 30.
I mean,
with
I'm
parent
sorry,
conferences.
that 25 to 27 didn't include the parent conferences.
Oh.
So then
But
we
it's an
add
average.
4
Yeah.
days to that for the parent, because we're talking about 30 days with parent-teacher conferences.
Yeah.
I think all in all, you're talking
With
about 2 or 3 more days than typical for this calendar.
I don't think it's
Not
that
talking about
many. I
many
think it's
days.
maybe 1 or 2. I really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seems more
I
like
mean,
one.
as I look through the calendar,
yeah, it's not a huge.
I would say that there's 1 more, but
Yeah.
I can verify that at home. I can't verify it.
Well, if we approve this, and it's only 1, they can reduce it to 1. If it's 5, and they can reduce it to 5, whatever it is. I think if it's 0, then they don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But I think the intent is to get back to, or to make sure that we are thoughtful about those Wednesdays, and just because the calendar is the way that it is, that we have a standard of trying to have a reasonable amount of Wednesdays.
Yeah, and honestly, if the board approves doing that and doing a reduction, we would just look at something that was easy for people to remember, because otherwise I think I'd almost just say at the beginning of the school year, I'd just recommend to our leadership team, let's look at the beginning of the year. It just makes it easier saying 1 month, there's no early releases or something like that. Because otherwise people get really confused, and then we have to keep messaging over and over again what the week is. People get into our routine. So we would have to make sure that it was really like early releases start in October or something like that. And we follow that schedule. I think it would be hard to insert it in the middle of the year, because everybody's got the routine by that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So.
So I guess the question is that worth it to try to get the number back down? And I would say that's sort of the motion I put on the table. They could take it back and consider like what we typically have, and maybe reduce it by 1 based on guidance of like it's easier with the calendar to not do the first one and then do the other ones. Or if people just want it as is and nobody wants the second, we can put a vote out on the original motion.
Did you make a motion?
I thought I sort of did, but then I just kept talking. So I guess let me try to make a motion again. I motion to approve the 25-26 school calendar with a potential reduction in the number of half days based on past precedent averages.
Second.
Okay. That got me to stop talking. Any other?
And I'm sorry, can I understand something? And that this is versus just approving this calendar.
Versus just saying this is.
Okay. I gotcha.
Yes. If you just like this as is, then don't, as I call for a vote, don't vote for the motion. If you'd like to see some adjustments to align with previous half-day numbers, then we can call for another vote on this calendar.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe it's unfortunate that we aren't more clear on the numbers at the moment, just because it seems like it could potentially just be 1 off, but maybe more than that. And I'm a little concerned, I guess, about hearing the idea of then just knocking off potentially all 3 in September. So just feeling a little bit of trepidation.
Well, here's
around it.
another idea, and these are just Jeff's
Yeah, I
ideas.
know.
These are only Jeff's ideas. So even if, okay, I'm just making this, I'm trying to help this process along.
Yeah.
If we just said that we will begin early release days on September 24th for the school year,
Yeah.
and going forward, we've used the same routine we always do. If it's a full week, or if it isn't a full week, if there's an early release. But we just start, and that way, if that's I'm just suggesting it. If the board would choose to do that, it would make it easier to follow after that.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so the vote on the table is to maybe make modifications to reduce the number of days following past precedent. Okay, all in favor?
2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Did I get all that?
It's one.
One more compared to this year.
Okay. All opposed?
I'm like literally trying to find this year's calendar.
I just found it.
I have it up. If
Okay.
you want me
There you
to
go.
tell you where I
It's done.
found it, I am happy to.
Oh. So 4 opposed,
4 opposed, 5 pass. Yep.
5 passed.
Okay,
That was
so
good television right there.
Yeah. Good call. So I honestly, I mean, again, I'll need to consult, but I think the easiest way to do it is just say we would just start the early releases a little bit later in September, and then we would follow the same procedure that we always do. It's like what
Yeah, I mean, and I just want to make sure, like, I don't want to feel like we're taking anything away from our teachers in this. It's just trying to also, I'm concerned about the extra costs on parents to find coverage for more days than we have typically, so. Okay, well, we got some no votes on things. I know we're not always unanimous.
Pretty good.
Found something to disagree with.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
I forgot, we haven't, thinking we were further along. All right, superintendent's report. Tonight, at Mabel Wilson School, the kindergarten had an assembly that they hosted for the entire school, actually, in 2 different assemblies. And students and staff reenacted the napping house. I think Mrs. O was actually Mrs. Napping, or whatever, whoever it was, the main character. And Mr. Muncie and Mrs. O like to have lunch with students, and for the month of December, Mr. Stevens's class actually won the bingo award for the month. And the bingo board, kids are caught picking up trash, doing winter crafts, taking an extra recess. They get items like that, and they do things around the school. And they were entered into a drawing, and they won lunch with the administrators. At GMS 4-8, congratulations to our GMS Special Olympians at the Winter Olympics. Gregor Stout, Ayla Jimeno, Ellie Sedgwick, Isaiah Sorrell, and Avery Kelmadis. I always get the hard names on these presentations, I'm sorry. Came in really well, did great in their events. Congratulations to Oliver Porgasemi for his 2nd place finish in the main STEM film contest for a short film on technology associated with weather forecasting. So congratulations to Oliver. 4th grade students observed and critiqued the artwork of Dean Russo, who is known for his vibrant, colorful animals. Look at these. It's amazing. Just really, really nice. Just going to brighten up the hallways in the school. Mrs. Harrington's 5th grade class joined Mr. Emery's 7th grade science class, and they conducted exothermic experiments together. Exothermic is heat. I had to look it up, make sure I knew it. At GMS 6-8, there's a shout-out wall, and that was created. Shout out to the GMS School Climate Committee for putting together the shout-out wall. This is a reminder that we all can take a moment and let somebody else know that we appreciate them. After considering upgrades for the 6 modular classrooms at GMS, the recommendation was to get rid of them and put some new ones in. Some grade 6 students did a great job actually presenting their ideas to classmates and trying to beautify the modulars as much as they can. Also, congratulations, we had a lot of Special Olympics recently for winter, to our high school Special Olympians, Kaysen Kent, Allie Brooks, Michael Johnson, Adam Jacobson, and Peyton Brown. And thank you also to Owen Piesick for volunteering. And at GHS, theater classes, one of the theater classes was practicing the 12 Angry Jurors and actually put on a production. This was not part of the theater production that we see twice a year, but this is just part of the theater classes. And at GHS, and I'm gonna let Sophia and Katie talk more about it, so I won't say much, but they did a dialoguing across differences, and I did have a chance to sit in on probably 3 or 4 of them, and they were really well done. And the students were the leaders of this. They trained together, and then they led other students. It was all students for this extended advisory. At the high school, we now have the school store, so thankfully that came in just as basketball season was ending, but it's going to be used a lot. Our FLS classroom at the high school will be operating the store as well for their school store. They actually collect orders and then go deliver those orders around the district each week. Congratulations to our state indoor track champions. Congratulations to Eva Dews, Sophia Dewina, Violet Armstrong, Bea Craig, and Rin Desmond for their well-deserved recognition in the Maine Regional Scholastic Art Awards competition. And Violet, B, Rin, and Eva received honorable mentions for their fantastic pieces, and I'm sure Sophia can probably talk more about it. Sophia and Eva won the Silver Key Award, and their works will be displayed at the Maine College of Art and Design in Portland. Actually, that was in February, and I think it's over, but there's an art walk on March 7th. Actually, isn't that tomorrow?
And is that yours?
Yeah, it's the chard.
Do you want to go point, Sophia?
That's right.
There it is. And Sophia has it on display in the GCA as well.
Not the actual one, because it's still in Portland, but I've got a print of it.
But you had other displays.
Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I'll talk about.
Because I saw your name.
Yes. Yeah, you did see my name.
We want to congratulate high school lead custodian Lori Libby. She received, and I've got to click on this.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm not going to be able to. There we go. We'll do it again. It's only 1 second.
Thank you.
So she received this recognition. This is the GHS Maroon and White Gratitude Cup. She was really, she does a great job at the high school of that place. She's always cleaning constantly. And she was recognized by the entire high school staff who gave her the Gratitude Cup.
Thank you.
Greeley Nordic team participated in the Western Maine Conference Championships, and girls team came in 2nd overall. Boys came in 3rd overall in the conference. Tate Harvey earned 1st place in Classic Skate and Pursuit. Rowan Barry earned 1st place in Classic Skate and Pursuit. Keenan Barry, 9th place in Classic, 12th place in Skate, and 12th in Pursuit. And Evelyn Lacasse earned 10th place in Classic, 6th in Skate, and 9th in Pursuit. Congratulations. We've had a really strong winter season. And thanks to the board goes back to school. I don't know how Mr. Francis's picture got back in here again, but he was along with the ride on that one, taking pictures of kids taking pictures. But thank you to the board members. Everybody was able to participate in at least one, which was great. And I know that we had somebody who participated in all of them.
We do. So we have a certificate of recognition for our own Jessie Lamar Vincent, who participated in all of them. So congratulations.
Actually, I didn't get an award.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, putting that on the fridge.
Jesse reminded us that he did participate in all of them. That's how I knew. So congratulations. And thank you. Hopefully you found those helpful. I know the administrators enjoyed doing them. And just, this is the one campus. I won't go through this. Most of this has been in the newsletter, but this will be posted. And if you want to go, we're just excited that a lot of things are just falling into place. Thank you for your approvals tonight. This gets the facilities going, the turf field going. We're going to be posting the earthwork part of the bids later. Actually, they've been posted. They'll be due April 10th. And the planning board approved everything, which you know. We've gotten the permit from the state fire marshal's office for the facilities building now. We're waiting for a couple more permits that we hope are in by the end of the month.
And I do just want to take a second to pause. These are very big milestones. The fact that, you know, we got through the planning board approval in that one meeting. And I just want to do like a little bit of a round of applause and recognition for the building committee, the administration, the architects that have really set us up for success in this project and on schedule. So just a little, yay! I think it sometimes gets lost in everything that's been going on.
And these are great milestones, and once you start seeing these milestones come, there's more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So really exciting to be able to see things falling into place. So.
Oh, right. So that's it?
Oh, that's
okay.
That's my report, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So we're going to move to the committee reports. We'll start with our students.
So despite some attention, it's been business as usual at the high school. And it's been a really long time, so Sophia and I will try to cover it all. But right now we're gearing up for Spirit Week. So exciting. We've been filming, dressing up, or we're about to dress up. We now voted on our themes for next week. We got a really cool presentation today about the blood drive that NHS runs and some really inspirational speeches. And then we just filled out our course request forms for next year, which is so crazy. Sophia didn't, but I did. And juniors, a lot of juniors are taking the SATs on Saturday. So after this, that's what I'm going to be going home and practicing for. And as just to touch on Mr. Porter's point about the snow days and the emails for the snow days, right before break, my geo class had a really cool presentation from Mr. DeRosa, who works in the high school, and he's like a real life meteorologist, and he actually spent, I think, 2 full years in Antarctica. Oh, wow. Super cool guy. And he gave us some like really cool insight on the following day, which he thought might be a snow day. And so I thought I might just relay that information to Mr. Porter.
He hasn't emailed me today, though.
Oh, yeah, no.
No, he usually
I'll figure
does.
it out, okay?
Usually gives me a heads up.
But yeah, here's on to Sophia.
So most exciting and most recent, I would say, is the IB Senior Art Exhibition, which was last night, and yes, my art's in it, guys. But it'll be up until April 2nd if you didn't get a chance to see it. I think there's about 11 of us, and it's a 2-year class, so it's been a lot of work, and it's really cool to see, and I think you could see like all of our own personal styles in our exhibitions. And I did point out to Mr. Porter that my exhibition is the one with my name on it. So, yeah.
I go, Sophia, where's your artwork? She goes, it's where my name is.
Yeah.
Sophia.
After I'd spent a whole day hanging my art, though, so it was, you know,
I'm
just
not
came
very
out.
observant.
But you'll know it's mine because it has my name on it. Moving on, this is just a little plug to the library and Miss Perkinson. They always have fun things going on in there, and this month we have March Madness, but for books. So all the students got an email, and we got to fill out our top picks. I hadn't read them all, so I did base them off of some titles, but I know that people do like to read them, and they actually do. The library does great things like that. And then the dialoguing across differences thing that we did in advisory was a while ago, so I had to think back. But that was actually really cool, and it was really nice to, I think sometimes we try to have like these conversations about the school climate and like all our differences and everything, but I think whenever there's student-led conversations, it makes the conversations just so much more genuine, and I feel like we're all able to connect at least. Like Katie was in my group, and it was a little group of like 6 or 7 of us, and I felt like those were really good, like times where we could just sit and reflect in small groups without having an adult coming and like monitoring us almost. But it was nice, and I thought it was valuable time. Other than that, seniors are not filling out course request forms for next year because we are all waiting to hear back from colleges. And on top of that, we're also beginning work on senior projects and thinking about exams.
Thank you. Kim, finance, anything to add after earlier?
Well, besides thinking forward for next year's budget, we are very much aware that we still have not been able to present the second quarter of this current fiscal year. So hopefully that is coming. It is not for lack of trying. It is very much, again, we want to commend the district finance office because the amount of work that has gone into adapting to this new accounting software has been a very, very big task. And so we're waiting patiently for the second fiscal quarter update so that we can provide that. And we are also currently in the middle of our annual audit, which after which we will be able to confirm and publish where we ended for fiscal year 24. So that has not been officially presented, even though, of course, we have a very good idea, but it depends on the audit. So that is coming to a close, and we just want to acknowledge that we are a district who got really lucky that we have an auditor who is only a couple weeks behind where we normally would be. Many schools in Maine are waiting a very long time to get an audit because there's a lack of auditors. So we're in good shape.
Thank you, Kim. Tim, school.
Okay. Well, you know about the bids, so that's good. Thank you for approving that. I want to echo as well what Leanne said. Like we, I think, have had a lot of success. We're on time, and that's kind of amazing given this is kind of a short runway. So kudos to the building committee, and thanks for the design team and the admin as well. So I think we've met twice since we last met. We did do an additional, I don't know if you want to call it, like I was there with a bunch of other school leadership to talk about MIW's needs. And so they are extensive, and I think that's kind of reshaped our thoughts a little bit within the building committee about alternates. And as we keep getting budget info that comes through, where we're spending our money, how to be strategic about it, what makes sense to put it in the 30-year bond, what makes sense not to. So there's been a lot of work on that. We've also established a couple of subcommittees within the building committee. So there's a technology one that's out that's primarily based off school staff. So thank you all the staff that are willing to participate in that. We have a budget committee that's reviewing the budget in detail, which I think we need to get another updated one when that becomes available. And we have a communications committee, which Megan is chairing, and I'm very excited about that. And there's going to be some good stuff that comes out of that. So the biggest thing coming up in we have about a month until the actual new school project goes out to bid. And so our biggest thing that we need to work through is the list of alternates, and what we're going to prioritize in the bid and what we're going to have as alternates. And so I think one of my concerns is, and I'll just be transparent with the board, is we've had tensions around, I think, the exact charge with the building committee, tensions among the other primary stakeholders in that, which would be the design team and the administration. And so how much time we ask of the design team has to be on our mind because it costs us money to meet with them. And it's their investment, it's also staff investment. We have a lot of work over the next month, I would say, based off the feedback I got from our last meeting in terms of they need to see more information on the alternates. They need more. Our building committee wants to see more timeline stuff. We also went over some finishes, and some of those finishes we have to know by the time we submit to bid. And so we need to look at our building committee is requesting that we see alternates to those finishes because we really only presented one option. And it carries on a theme slightly that I think there's an expectation from the building committee of, we meet regularly, we'll ask our questions and we pass through, where I think I don't know if we've been given quite the space to have the oversight that we that we need for me to feel fully comfortable. I think we can get there for sure, but I think we're going to have to do something to kind of reevaluate or reestablish the charge that it's important for the building committee that represents our community, are the people that are paying for it, the people that are that we're sending our kids to, the building that we'll be driving by every day. And so while I am so appreciative of the design team focusing on spending their time with our staff, spending our time with the administration, I can't have that come at the expense of the building committee. And right now, that's how it's been framed. We're the most important stakeholder, and I appreciate everyone's other input, but can't come at that. Can't come at the expense of our time. And so we have to figure out a way to, I think, I think the design team has pushed back on the amount of time that we've had, which I actually think has been very limited, as it's been as needed from the design team. And so I'm going to be asking for a little bit more time than they probably are comfortable with this month, just to meet the needs of where we need to be before we go at the bid. But I wanted you guys to be all aware of that. I think the design team, again, they have really pushed us through to where we're at. They've been trustworthy. They've provided details, and I appreciate all the work that the admin and the design team have done. I just think that we need, as a building committee, a little bit more time this month than they might be comfortable with, and hopefully we can get there. So I just wanted you guys to kind of know the landscape that we're dealing with and know that some of the challenges that we have, but also we have a lot of successes. And so we're meeting with members of the design team on Monday to kind of work through what the rest of our month looks like and the rest of the year. And so hopefully that goes well, but we have a busy month in the next month. So we'll appreciate your support. We meet next on March 12th, and we will probably have a couple other subcommittees, one around the finishes and one around the budget before we go out to bid. And hopefully on the 12th, we'll be discussing alternates in detail. We still need to get that list of alternates, a little bit more detail with that. So I encourage anyone that wants to come and look at the alternates and be engaged in that to be there. And yeah.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate that update. And yeah, just because I was myself getting familiar with the alternates. So these are things that aren't necessarily part of the base bid, aren't like a requirement of the building or other spaces, but things that if there is budget, that we want to be able to accomplish. So some things at MIW, if there's funds, we want to be able to do more there because that school has been so heavily used with all the kiddos that have been in there, that we want to be able to accomplish some of those other things too, if budget allows. So thank you.
I just wanted to add real quick, if you don't mind. I think there is a lot of add alternates. At that last meeting, it was quite the list to go through, and I think there definitely needs to be some time to dig through it, because there's a lot of options and a lot of things that we need to really come up with a priority list.
Yes.
And I think we got a lot of input, really good input from our community members and the staff and everything like that, and I think it's important that we take the time to look over it.
Yeah, and we're hoping...
And understand them well from the stakeholders' positions.
Yes. Yeah, so we're hoping to get a good list out before the meeting so people have time to take a look at it. So that is a big priority. So thank you.
Leanne?
Yes.
I just need to make sure that we are planning for and designing for 3-year-olds as well as 4-year-olds.
Oh,
yes. It's going to come on the same year.
Yes.
And 3-year-olds have very different needs than 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
No matter how small the program is going to be, they're very different needs. I know a couple.
Yeah. Well, and that's been really nice. Blatt and Associates, the building that they're finishing now, which I do want to go do a field trip to at some point in Skowhegan, is 6-month-olds to seniors. So we've had conversations about the fact that we do believe 3-year-olds will be in that building, and so they've definitely kept that in mind as we design our programming for those spaces. So, but it's a good reminder to that is coming. And I can't read a list, so I skipped policy.
Oh.
Annika, so.
I was just waiting for my name. So we had to reschedule a meeting that we had originally set for right after the break. But even before that, we had been trying to find a time to meet both in person as well as for a more extended period of time, just given what we were seeing in front of us in terms of the policy work that we would still like to get done this year. And so our next meeting is coming up on Monday, this Monday the 10th, and that will be in person in the district office conference room from 2:30 to 4. The agenda for that should be posted soon. We almost have that finalized. And we will then have another meeting. I guess it is just then. Is it then the next week, the 19th, which will also be in person. So trying to get some work done over the next couple meetings, see how much we can accomplish, and then, look at our meetings from there. One of the things from our last meeting, which was February 10th, was reviewing the school board use of email and electronic communications, and also the use of social media by school employees. I don't necessarily anticipate having those on the agenda for this coming Monday's meeting, but those are a couple of the things that have been in process.
Great. Thanks, Annika. Christina, curriculum?
Yes, the last meeting we had was January 27th, and we talked about the process that the teachers went through to select math curriculum and books. They ended up choosing a consumable, meaning a workbook where kids fill it out. They had to sort of translate for me. They fill it out, they keep it, they've got it themselves, et cetera, et cetera. I asked why. They explained that the current books they were using are not being printed anymore by Houghton Mifflin, so they had to go in search of another. However, this one they're very happy with. I believe it was called Reveal Geometry. At any rate, it's aligned with Common Core. They have a digital version of it. There's presentation software available as well that students could see at home to review information on their laptops. And also it has a I do, we do, you do approach. So as far as teaching the lesson itself in class. So they're pleased with that. We also had an overview of the district Wabanaki studies and how it's covered. Basically, at the high school, it's incorporated into world history. In 8th grade, they examine it, in particular Maine tribes, but also relative to U.S. tribes in 8th grade. 6th grade, they focus on historical and economic aspects of the native cultures. And 4-5, they study it relative to unity and diversity units and cultural traditions. And in pre-K 3, it's embedded in the literature. So that is the different ways that they cover that. And lastly, the next meeting, we did not have a February meeting because of vacation week. March 31st is our next meeting, and the one of the main topics is advanced math.
Great.
Yeah. And then to touch on that meeting as well, specifically with the consumable textbook, it's really necessary, especially with the honors geometry group, because they do operate under a flipped classroom. So they're doing a lot of work at home, and then they're like learning at home through a video, and then they come into class and they practice that and ask questions. And at least when I was taking it, I found it really helpful to be able to write everything down in my book that I would keep and bring to and from school. And also with geometry, you have those really in-depth diagrams. And whereas if you wouldn't have had that book where you could like actually write in, you would have to retrace those diagrams. And so it's definitely necessary, and we don't often use consumable textbooks, but I think that's the only class that I really would have wanted one in if I didn't have one.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Excellent. What she said. Excellent.
Yes. Thank you. Great. Kim, equity?
Yeah, plus a consumable math book is something to add to the end of your bonfire, which is always satisfying, as I recall.
I thought they were going to eat them.
But quickly going back to finance, I realized I skipped one point, that we have a meeting on Monday afternoon, and there's been a little bit of miscommunication about, do we have a meeting Friday afternoon?
I feel like it's next Friday.
It's next Friday.
13th, I
Thursday.
think.
There's been some miscommunication.
13th.
The 13th.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, is that?
Yeah.
Thursday the 13th
Thursday
at
the
1:30.
Thursday,
Thank you.
yeah.
It's a meeting next week. How about that? But I want to apologize to the public because there was some miscommunication and meetings didn't get noticed as quickly as we would have liked. And so I just want to say we are working on that. Obviously, I need to get my own calendar set. And what made me think of that is that we have a meeting next week for the Equity Committee, our bi-monthly meeting. So we have not met since January, and it'll be great to come together and hear how each of our individual subcommittees are doing as far as evaluating each of the areas of the equity plan. So that will be exciting to come together and do that. And I think just to kind of renew our sense of how special this committee is, what it protects. It is for all members of our community who need to be need someone advocating for them. It is for all the students and community members who are passionate about that advocation, and it is for all students and community members who don't necessarily even feel like they need it or agree with it. Equity covers every student, every community member. The goal of an equity plan is to make sure that every single student and community member has the opportunity to thrive with no obstacles, no guilt, no isolation, no ostracization. And I am really proud of the work that the Equity Committee has done for the last several years to put that in place, because we really do consider every single community member. So just thought maybe it's time to remind us of that. Annika, is there anything you want to add?
Okay. No, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any ad hoc committee reports?
I have one.
Great.
It's about the Safety and Security Committee.
Okay.
We had a meeting this week, and it was an excellent meeting. And as I think we've told the board in the past, we can't really talk about it because we don't want to disclose plans. That's the whole point. But one thing I think I can share with everybody is that part of our discussion was about Stop the Bleed training and kits, which has been a hot topic online and via email. And we did a lot of work about that. And I think that there will be more information that comes out because we want to involve the community a little bit. But we've heard the community, and I think we're taking it seriously and building to that goal of getting some of these kids in the school.
Great.
A lot of these kids in the school.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other ad hoc committee reports?
Parks and Rec was canceled again, so we haven't met for the last, for a little while, but the this quarter's meeting was canceled. But I talked to Peter recently, and he wants to have kind of a smaller meeting just so we can all meet. So if there are any requests or anything you want me to bring up in that conversation, just send me an email, and I'll
Tim,
address it.
And that reminded me that one of the things that came out of the planning board was around a policy that relates to the turf field and usage. And we had talked about, because I was just going to give the athletic advisory update as the rep for that, and that it would be a combination of athletic, rec, and the school, and obviously the athletic director would also be involved.
Yep.
But we're tasked with putting together a policy around use.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So
Update them.
that is something that we'll need to be working on. I don't know if it had an official name. Turf use policy.
Oh yeah, we don't have a name for it
We
yet.
don't.
but Usage.
Usage,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yes,
But
it's one of the
it's one of the
conditions
conditions of
from the
approval.
planning board. So there's that, and so the athletic advisory meeting, we did meet somewhat recently. Couple topics were just related to the turf field coming online, and what are some potential fundraising opportunities that they might, the boosters might pursue as it relates to that. Also talked about just athletic programming at the high school. There had been some questions around, there's a very large 8th grade class that has had really high athletic participation coming into the high school, and what just questions around how the high school is prepping. And then it sounds like there may be a study at the MPA around boys volleyball as a potential future ad, and they'll be starting to reach out to districts and just understand numbers. I don't think there's been a new sport added for a while, but I think that one is under study.
That's great.
So, yes.
Just put in a couple of plugs for Foundation 51 and Greeley PTO. Believe that Foundation 51 is still interested in additional board members. If there are folks in the community who are interested in joining Foundation 51 or learning more about that opportunity. Also, applications for the spring grant cycle are still being accepted, due by March 15th. And then PTO-wise, there was a bingo night, third grade bingo night last night. Maybe we'll see it in the superintendent's report on our next meeting. Looks like they have some nice pictures online already. And then an upcoming grades 4-5 trivia night on March 20th. Great. So for those who have 4th and or 5th graders.
Great. And just another note, the Greeley High School Spring Play is the weekend of the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. I know. Well, you have to get your tickets. All right. So next up is communications. I don't have anything in particular to add to that item tonight. And then we just leaves us with items for action. Can I have a motion to enter executive session to conduct the evaluation of the superintendent of schools and discuss superintendent's goals pursuant of state statute 1 MRSA 4056A?
So moved.
Thank you, Megan. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sean. All in favor? Great. All in favor? I hope everyone has a nice evening who is leaving now. Thank you. It's great seeing you. It's been a while.
Thank you.
I mean,